Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Aurora. This class is called Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. And today, what I'm doing is really a reassessment of a lot of my curriculum, specifically Lesson 5, which is called Meditation and Mastering the Mind. So, what we are doing right now in our esoteric journey, or where our consciousness is, we are almost at that point of reconnection here. We are literally going through the solar portal, or we are in the moment of crowning or coming forward. And we are having to do a total reassessment of all of the things that we thought were truthful. Hold on, let me just do this and then I can stop touching technology. Good. Um, all the things that we thought were truthful and the things that we thought could guide us forward. So I know that I've brought some destabilizing energy last week in talking about Christianity, and I'm going to keep on destabilizing you. Hold on. Now I'm done touching technology. Good. Now I can really focus. Good job. I'm going to keep on destabilizing you. But today it might be a little bit easier because I'm going to destabilize you on the concept of Buddhism, meditation, and all of these different, I call them religions in Asia. I know that is kind of clumping things together. But it might be easier because I don't know if you're as deeply emotionally invested. So I'm sorry, please apologies for my fragmentation. And I do have everything is perfectly prepared over here. So I'm not even playing by my musical score right now. I'm just so super fragmented. What we're doing as we confront the sun and as we look at the flawed level of the indigo chakra, or what is happening with Christ versus Antichrist, that in your anatomy is here. And that in the solar anatomy is like, at the sun. We are also at the same moment looking at the inherent and foundational instabilities at the heart chakra here. And that is, I've taught you about the ages, like each chakra represents an age, and there's an avatar of the age. And that's a person who is supposed to come as a guide and a focuser of intellectual and attainment energy. And so we talk about Buddha being Siddhartha, the guy who is the heart chakra here. And then we remember the historical Jesus or Yeshua as being this guy up here. But there are problems with both of these guys. Okay. So today, gird your loins. Get ready for battle. We are going to highly criticize Buddha and Jesus and the insane son, and really declare how we see all of the Christ versus Antichrist energy as all being unattractive, as the Christ versus Antichrist locked in a death battle while not attending to our actual needs has brought the vehicle, quote unquote, of our planet perilously close to the edge of the road. Like you're veering wildly across the highway while Christ versus Antichrist is busy locked in this death battle, not attending to our needs at all. And so I say throw them both in the bin because they are both not correct aspects of your spiritual journey. And that is like this area of your anatomy, but I don't want you to throw that area of your anatomy in the bin. I want you to keep your pineal gland, retain your pineal gland crystals. But now we have to look at stuff that is about meditation, the heart chakra, what I have taught you, and what you come groomed for in your expectation. Okay, so you're like, oh my God, like you're already holding on with white knuckles, like get going, and you got like this energy blowing in your face, energy of truth blowing in your face. Okay, so let's all hydrate. Let's get ready. No, it's going to be awesome. You're like, I'm ready to purge my parasites. Good job. Let's do it. Okay, so this is called the problem with meditators, pollutions of the ages. Okay, so real talk and valid criticism on society of meditators. So these are specifically the Buddhists of Asia, but this also does kind of amorphously blend in with the Hindu tradition too. And I will admit to you all that I am not very well educated as to what Hinduism is, its deeply held beliefs. I am not educated enough to even be able to criticize it well, and I'm sure that I will at some point. But as I place my tendril of attention on the Buddhists and this particular style of meditation, I'm going to bring forward my absolute critique. And this is engendered or brought forward, like necessitated, because I am right now in direct conflict with this Buddhist community, is a nice way of putting it. These very bad people that are Buddhists, both the alive quotient and also the dead guys that are in the astral, who are some of these false ascended masters that I've been very vocally criticizing here. So if you wonder why I haven't spoken about them in the past, it's because, I've been very busy in taking out the trash and cleaning out the garbage from Mars. Today, clean up a lot more garbage that is mostly the origin of Buddhism and the Buddhist community. A distinction between Buddhism, and for my very, I am barely even educated about what this stuff is. And it is kind of like learning about the spice traders on Arrakis. Just I'm learning enough to be able to navigate this Baroque labyrinth, but really I don't want to re-energize it or have it go so deeply into my own mind that it then is re-emitted. So I've only learned enough to be able to validly critique it. My critique initially comes from placing my tendril of attention on them and fighting against them for personal freedom. And I'm going to talk to you all about this. But then I've done some subsequent self-education and attempts to learn about what this philosophy or approach or worldview is and what is wrong or harmful about it. So one key distinction we've got, of course, there are meditators that are in the Hindu tradition, but they believe in a soul or an Atman or a Brahman. Apologies on my terrible American accent and very bad pronunciation and very bad spelling in general. And if I'm saying things incorrectly, please forgive me. So the sense of a soul in that particular religion and worldview. But to contrast that in this world of meditators, they're not really talking about a soul. They are looking at it from like I said, a dry toast, very cut and dried analytical way of saying, what is consciousness? What is consciousness doing in its day-to-day moment? What is thought form doing? How are thoughts formed? And then also the science or the observational nature of what is a consciousness doing when it dies and in between lives. And this relates to the insane solar portal that I was criticizing heavily last week. So to get you up to speed, if you haven't done the season recap, now is when we do the fast recap. The solar portal is supposed to destroy anything that reaches the membrane of death. I finally remembered to bring my wonderful sculpture here so we can actually point to it today. If you end up here, tap the sign, you have done something very wrong. That's the first thing, you have done something very wrong. You're not supposed to be here. And if your consciousness or, what your awareness comes to this moment here, there's supposed to be a lot of energy flowing around in the circular nature or the spherical nature here, and of course here, and of course all around it. That is supposed to be very, very strong energy, like a fire hose of truth or a waterfall of truth that washes away falsehoods, I wanted to say bullshit, and clears stuff out that is not eternal. And that is the correct operation of the heliosphere. We have already established last week that the heliosphere is not functioning correctly, as there was a giant catastrophe or wrong, bad math that was done on Mars, really in a different layer of reality, but you could think of it as in deep antiquity. And instead of all of the consciousnesses that ended up on the membrane of death being incinerated by the powerful fire hose of truth that comes from the sun, the insane solar portals, this goes to that level, it's a very old problem, decided, hey, how about if instead of incinerating these fragments of consciousness, which Aurora oh so eloquently calls the garbage from Mars, how about I instead just carry it gently, and then just dump it and shove it directly into the perfectly pristine civilization that we know as Atlantis on Earth. And that makes the sun insane, a violator, as this is a violation. It's against consent of everybody who's on the planet herself over here. And it's against the consent of the genome or genetics or DNA or the math that dictates or makes life possible. It's a violation of time. It's a violation of everything. And the insane sun not doing its job, which is to resolve those consciousnesses. If something got to the moment, tap the sign that it has done something so very wrong, it needs to be informed of its wrongness and then sent out of reality, like resolved out of reality. Hold on one moment. We're going to open the door for Cheeky so she can go outside. Good job. The job of the sun is not to play a buddy system where it's like, hey, kid, I like your face. I'm not going to incinerate you, even though you're garbage from Mars. I'm going to carry you gently and stick you over here into this beautiful society where you can then, I'll just use bad language, fuck shit up for many, many millennia, right? So that is what the insane sun did. The collusion, buddy system, or corruption of not resolving these fragments of garbage from Mars really relates to the whole concept of reincarnation and the recycling of souls in the Buddhist tradition. I must also now talk about my own work, as this is an ongoing reassessment of what I have taught you, and I'll be really, really clear. I have taught that each person that's an embodiment is an amalgamation of both some natal human element from Earth, which I'm calling the Atlantean remnant, and some garbage from Mars, or these unresolved, pathogenic, psychopathology, crazy guys, crazy doo-doo guys that came from Mars and were forcibly inserted into here. And I have portrayed this as a type of refinement process where you start off at an angle and full of some amount of doo-doo. And then as you go through your personal journey and you go through, life experiences, much like that hilarious movie Groundhog's Day, you learn to de-identify with the doo-doo, turn down the volume on your pathological aspects, not energize or emphasize or behave from those levels of self, and cultivate the true generous, truly loving, truly harmonic, truly life affirmative aspects of self. This is my teaching of what things are supposed to be like. Let me close the door and give Cheeky a cookie. Hold on one second. Focusing here. We have to receive cookies when we are good. Just recollecting myself as I'm remembering what I'm talking about here. Um, Sorry about that. Just recollecting myself. It implied that each person was a mixture of both good and correct math and bad and wrong math. But what I'm really seeing and sensing is that that is not the truthful or accurate portrayal. That would be like in a pristine system. What we're actually seeing is that there are some whole organisms who are 100% garbage from Mars with almost 0% true connection to the natal aspect of Earth and without origins from Atlantis. So now that you think of that, like now that we've recalibrated this is me critical of my work. I said everybody's a mixture. Maybe it's 50-50, 60-40. We don't know how much, but everybody's a mixture. Now I'm saying I refine what I see, because what I actually see is some of us, we are the Atlantean remnant. We might be a mixture, right? Like 89% Atlantean remnant and then a little bit of garbage from Mars. But I see that there are some who are 100% garbage from Mars and that they do not have any origin or any justification for being in this realm. And that also implies, truthfully, that they can never be refined out of this system because they did not come from out of this system. They are the psychopathology of the insane sun itself, fragmented and continually cycling within this system. And this is going to speak deeply to the motivation of why the historical Jesus and the Christian religion, which is very wrong and harmful and corrosive, would want to close this solar portal for ascension with the satanic teaching of the Satanic Bible that is in John 14:6, when it is proposed that the historical Jesus Christ said, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. That was a dark magic spell. So this is the part that might be destabilizing, because many people who are good people try to believe in Jesus, or they try to believe in the teachings of the church. And that's a big thing that says you have to die. These are erroneous teachings. Please don't internalize them. I don't want you to believe this. But the flawed church says, well, in order for you to go back home, first what you have to do is die, and then go through the death portal that was created by this mythos or ideology of a savior, a person who was here and who died, and then who created that type of consciousness bridge or portal, and that you're going to have to die too, but that through that, you're going to go home to heaven. None of this is what's actually happening. So I know that this is a lot to lay on you, and I'm going to go through all of this and make it very, very clear. And we're going to figure out whether it was an actual person or just a mythology, and how this relates to actual Christ consciousness. But please know that I'm informing you of this so that you can fully remove your belief, remove any consent, break this contract for all of humanity, whether the consent was real, imagined, fabricated, coerced, or tortured. It is removed. And when I say coerced or tortured, let's imagine or envision if there was a historical Jesus Yeshua who is busy being crucified and tortured in the moment. In my generosity of spirit, I could say he might have been a very good person. And whenever I have thought about him or connected to the life that I perceive of that avatar, I always got a loving, polarity, positive sense. But it is possible for people to hold up a mask. It is possible for people to misportray themselves. I thought that he was a good person. It's possible that he was a good person, and that in his moment of torture at the end of his life, he did a really bad thing, which sold out everyone's possibilities and fucked you over, and is fucking you over in this moment. Like, if you wonder, well, Aurora, how come we're not just flying through the solar portal? Hooray, ascension, let's go, everyone. It's because there is a giant, concrete block that is there. That is this concept, John 14:6. And everybody who is trying to be a good, true believer is energizing that. And it is a blockade that makes it so that you can't get past this Jesus character. And when I have created Flying Rainbow Lasagna, I spoke about this last week. It is a way to be able to transcend the obstacle that is at that part of your journey. It is not the only way to get to divine reconnection or the source or the remembrance of yourself as God, to have to go through a death experience, through the Jesus portal, and then into whatever that is. I actually think that that is imprisonment, not true freedom. That what is proposed by going into that portal is going into a protected pocket realm, a bubble of peace and sanity that is called Christian heaven, where you would be held in a type of imprisonment for 13 billion years by this negative entity that is like an astral form of Jesus. That I don't even think the person was so unflawed. I think they were a very flawed person and a fraught character at this point, that we have to start to really consider this, held in a pocket realm for your own protection. So, and then at the end of 13 billion years, at the end of the universe, to be able to open the door and then be like, okay, bird in a gilded cage, or multiple birds in the gilded cage of Christian heaven, fly free, you're now ready to go forward, and you would have 1 second or 1 moment of freedom, and then literally the entire fabric of space-time ends, and that's it. I want you to know that is literally the plan for that incredibly flawed version of Jesus or Yeshua. It's a bad idea. I don't know how to even say this. Like, maybe he was a good person, maybe he was a bad person. Good people can have bad ideas, but when good people have bad ideas and then make their bad ideas do something that afflicts all of us, that is fucking evil. That is really wrong. So if there's a lot of ifs here, but if this is what's going on, that is a real problem, and it relates to your negotiations of this moment right now. Okay. So file that away, the concrete stopper that has been put at the top of this bottle through that pronouncement of dark magic made sealed with the death of the person, like a negative spell that is made and then sealed with the death of that person, so that you couldn't advance unless you went through that person's portal. Of course, like if you can do flying rainbow lasagna and you can transcend that and you can rewrite and have a different story, that's really good for you and is a wonderful opportunity of freedom. And then you don't have to die, first of all, which is what I've been teaching you for a long time. You should not die, and you don't want to have to die. And that's why I am so praiseful and celebratory of each one of you. You're in my class and you're an alive person and you're watching this video. Good job. Seriously, high five, high five. You know why? Because you're alive. I want to say you're a fucking live. And that means that you have a good negotiation, you have a good stand for bargaining with this false astral Jesus or whoever would, in a stupid way, put a concrete stopper at the top of the ascension refinement so that you can't get out of here. You're going to have to negotiate with this guy and you're going to have to confront him. And it's so much more powerful when you are alive and when you don't have to live in his afterlife or be asking or requiring to go into his Christian after existence or any kind of thing like that. It's like, no, you are still alive and you are saying that you deserve to bypass the need for death, which is what this diagram truthfully portrays. So when I first came here as Aurora, I, of course, came connected to and remembering myself as part of Christ, the Christ Consciousness Network, not at all indoctrinated into the church here. I was excited when I found out that there was a Christian church. I was excited to find fellow celebrants or whatever. And then as I attended, educated myself more, learned more about the Satanic Bible, like my face says it all, I was like, oh, this is different than what I thought. And then backing away slowly and be like, okay, you guys are all really immature and not thinking correctly and everything like that. But, I'm glad that you've got some baby food or something that kind of helps you to keep going. But no, distanced myself then after that. But always wore the cross as a continued positive connection to and recognition of the larger Christ Consciousness Network, which is and should be considered genuine law enforcement throughout the fabric of time, space, and consciousness. Genuinely enforcing cosmic law. And cosmic law is definitely the antithesis of any of these cronyism, buddy system, and anything where it's like, oh, hey, kid, you're garbage from Mars, you get a free pass. Go right on through. I'm not going to incinerate your ego or hold you accountable or make you face your red clipboard of all the things you've done bad. Get back in there, kid, and fuck some shit up for me. Good job, right? Real Christ consciousness would incinerate that bullshit out of reality, would never allow that or stand for that. So you can now comprehend why the insane son would be hostile to the genuine Christ network, would want to figure out some way as the criminal insane son, like it's plotting or considering how can it do its criminal activity of cronyism and artificial shuffling of souls throughout this labyrinth in a way that it would never do naturally. The insane son is like, oh, somehow I'm going to have to get rid of these law enforcement agents. And that is what the sun really did in 2020 or 2019 of this level of reality. And it was through the intentional proliferation of this technology. It wasn't just the technology that is here. Sorry, I'm so thirsty. It wasn't just on our planet, although it took, many years to be able to create and deploy the 5G, both through the towers and most critically surrounding the planet using low Earth orbit satellites. It also is the mind virus. And this relates to some of the things that I was speaking about with high criticism and valid mistrust of Alabar Jones and his team, and of anyone who would very erroneously, dangerously catapult us into even worse levels of reality by metastasizing the insanity or the insane mind virus of whatever is pathogenically wrong with our own sun star, connecting it to other stars. That is very, very harmful and destabilizing. So think of it like a computer virus, even though this is all totally analogy and not literal. But a virus can be made of light, a sense of false light, wrong errors, partial truths, and things that are very distorted, that if you beam that into somebody's mind or shoot it into their eyes, that it would blind them, hurt them, or make them go insane and act badly. I think that that is what this sun did to Christ, like the True Christ Network. It's very difficult to talk about this because the True Christ Network is supposed to be like asbestos and a shield that can never be incinerated. But I think that what happened was something that was like the True Christ Network. These are puzzle solvers and people who attend to things with their tendril of attention. Like, what's going on over here? I better look into it. I think that they touched on something, that they got infected with something. And I think that they followed their training, which is just like, a spy or someone who's caught behind enemy lines. Like, you do not allow yourself to be taken over or taken hostage or anything like that. I think that the True Christ Network did fight valiantly, trying to protect us, protect this planet, and protect, let's say, this layer and level of reality. And I think that they got incinerated in their efforts. And again, it is an oxymoron because they are supposed to be unincineratable. But I think that that is what happened. And again, I bring to you a lot of my things that are surmisings, or I'm like kind of getting it, but not really getting it because some of this stuff is unclear and almost impossible to see, and you shouldn't put your tendril of attention on it. So some of this stuff I am reconstructing in my considerations of what is truthful, but I don't share it as foundational truth. So please know that about me. And what I'm trying to do with all of these videos over the past several weeks is to give you really good guidance as I am seeing these things through my windshield. And I'm a visionary. And you can tell, like, that's where my artwork comes from. Like, I can see very accurately. And usually I use my ability to see to be able to make beauty and then show you guys, like, oh, here's the map of reality and what things are shaped like. But right now I'm using my ability to see to warn you that you are in danger, girl, and that you need to do something different and not like, go directly into this extremely unfair and hostile situation. So just as the Christ Network is extremely responsible, capable, and very well trained, that if they met a foe or if something happened that overwhelmed them, they wouldn't become something that could be weaponized against us. I think that the True Christ Network was like obliterated and destroyed, and that happened about 5 or 6 years ago. And then we have been very, very much without any level of protection. And what I learned after that was, okay, like if that level of protection is not there for me, I am going to have to learn to protect myself. And then even as I gained those muscles and augmentations, I started to protect the entire planet. And this is where we stand right now. So this is very good. This is why we're in confrontation with this flawed Christ, or this cement manhole cover that is preventing us from going up further, because we haven't been killed or incinerated. We are the surviving troublemakers, and we are here to break that spell and to say that to withdraw consent and belief and upholding from that person. And it's really hard because just like when you think about your feelings for the sun, you're like, but I love those feelings. Like, I love to feel the sun on my skin, and I love that my son grows my little strawberry plants outside, and I love all these nice things. And many of us have had similar feelings of a conception or a mythos of a positive Christ figure, someone who would love and protect us and guide us and parent us and nourish us, and then also like be there for us in some type of a vaunted or expanded way. Let me emphasize this also, as it's not written in my notes, and I'm writing a lot, and it's very tiring to my brain also. So it's not how I usually communicate, but I'm doing it. The sense of, I don't want it to slip away. That's why I wanted to say it. Commitment to Christ. It will come back. I'm sorry. Okay, so commitment to Christ. Please know that these things will circulate around, and I'm not done. I have a lot more to be able to say about that. But let me get back to what I'm talking about with the meditators. And you'll see how these two things interact, because what I'm doing is helping you to clear your body. You have to clear out this area of your body, and then also you have to clear out this area of your body. What have I always taught? That your higher faculties rest upon the foundation of the love tone and the actions of your heart, and that you're supposed to do meditation in order to increase your love tone, gain enough momentum in order to be able to activate your higher faculties. So we are facing a lot of problems, and we're kind of like doctors assessing the symptoms of where are these problems. Some of the problems are at the level of the heart and what propels you in your ascension journeys. So if this is like your telescope and you're using it, or your microscope, to see, and like energy comes through here, the energy that comes through there is really from your heart. And if you don't have enough energy to see up here or to propel yourself through time, it is because of problems at the heart, but it's not necessarily your problems. There are other people who are involved. This also is separate from the technological problems that are caused by what we call colloquially the W band, or the wide body area network, a type of subcutaneous technology that is connecting people's energy fields. So a lot of what we have right now is a struggle against that. But even if you were to magically melt away and remove all of that layer of technology, you would still have to fight with or confront the problem of these meditators from many millennia ago that are false ascended masters. So let me keep on reading, and I think that this will all start to make a lot of sense to you. So the first thing is to reconsider how you, as secular people, even look at people who are monks, that you might consider that they are supposedly humble renunciates. People who are like, no, I'm not here for the material world. I'm here for something spiritual and bigger and better, and that they're somehow better than you. So that's what the first thing is, to kind of wipe any of that away. So total, my face of total sarcasm. Please disabuse yourself of that notion. That is not what is going on here at all. To hydrate, I'm so sarcastic. No, what is actually going on here is that these meditators are supremely in self-service, that they are trying to hack the system or somehow gamify the ascension experience and serve themselves, which is quote unquote supposedly reaching enlightenment. But we're going to talk all about what is actually enlightenment and what are they referring to and even portraying when they say enlightenment. You as spiritual aspirants, you're not even like regular secular people in the world, but please know that you should not try to either admire or emulate these meditators in Asia at all. And there are questions about crossover. If the historical Jesus was in the Middle East, but if he traveled extensively, and if he did go on the Silk Road to Asia, there are a lot of musings that he likely did that in his life, and then somehow was influenced by not only the levels of self-cultivation, like the accumulation of charismas, magical powers, and other things like that, but he might also have been influenced by their mentality of their advanced meditators, which I'm now going to portray to you as totally spiritual con artists, not real ascending or ascended masters. Okay, I go on to read because I think that sometimes I'm saying it better in what I wrote already. Okay, so this teaching right now is for advanced students who already know about my rants on the garbage from Mars, or the unresolved ego characteristics that are from that extremely flawed society. I don't call it a civilization on Mars, that was forced into the genes of Atlantis, and also, so not only Atlantic genes, but minds and culture. Okay, a lot of these garbage people, and I'm always saying that in air quotes there, but they have a tendency to gravitate to and be attracted to hierarchies, power hierarchies, where it is very clear how power circulates and the dynamics of interaction are very clear. A lot of the time, these are male-dominated hierarchies. So the military is one of them. You enter as a private, you do this, this, and this, then you go this, then you go this, then you go this, and then if you do something right, then you get to be a general or an admiral, right? Like a very, very clear a trajectory upward in power. Um, Also, the garbage from Mars loves bureaucracies wherein you don't have to really exhibit excellence. You just have to grind forward, do your time, and you eventually get kind of like graduated onward just in deference to the amount of time that you have been there. So when I say that, use that comprehension of how they, garbage from Mars, not good stuff that's supposed to be in existence. So this is a good thing, but they're looking at this thing like, oh, this is a nice, comfortable bureaucracy that I can go through. I'm stupid face as a spiritual being, and I'm going to start out like in this very, very undefined way, and then I'm just going to circulate through with no effort, no effort, no effort, and eventually, ding, I will ascend, and I'll blah blah blah, and all I have to do is do my time. This concept is very, very flawed. And I have to make sure that I haven't added to any misportrayal, as I have taught you in this class, like, oh, yes, it's a refinery of consciousness, and you are supposed to go up through these different layers. But what else do I teach you? You are not required or desired to play every wrong note. You are actually not supposed to hunk around on the piano and be like, is it this one? Is it this one? Is it this one? Or like the monks, their version would be like, okay, we're going to start out at this low end over here, and we're just going to go methodically through every single note until I finally get to ding, that's the right note. And of course, that is an abuse of time. That is like the sun and the stars playing wrong notes or doing bad math intentionally, being like, okay, 2 plus 2 equals 7. 2 plus 2 equals 243 million. 2 plus 2 equals 5 quadrillion quadratini million. You're like, wow, there's a lot of wrong answers and only one right answer, which is 2 plus 2 equals 4. Hooray, you guys are smart. And it's like when you are actually literate and smart, you don't have to say, oh, does 2 plus 2 equal 243 quadratini million? No, it does not. It equals 4. And when you have your higher faculties activated, you can see that. And then you go in the right direction. So the whole idea is that you go through life cultivating your higher faculties, getting more and more adept at being able to read the musical score of reality so you can self-direct, make good choices, not erase yourself, self-direct, and be like, oh, I'm not going to hit the membrane of death. I'm going to make a better choice instead. And then you start to jump over all of these unnecessary deaths. Like, oh, look at that. I didn't have to, whatever, get my face eaten by an alligator. I didn't have to die in a skydiving accident. I didn't have to have this or that happen. And instead, I stayed alive. So huge distinction to be made there. You are not supposed to be abused endlessly through time, like some type of flotsam and jetsam. That is similar to the philosophy of determinism that I've taught you about, which is a hands off the wheel approach. People are like, I'm not in control of my life. The world is strictly deterministic. I am merely an actor on a stage, strutting and fretting my role, like Shakespeare said. And it's not my fault what I do. There's a giant author in the sky, and he's writing my novel for me, and I just do stuff. And like, that is not truthful. That's not what's going on at all. It is a wonderful way to sidestep personal responsibility or the blowback from any of the things that you've ever done wrong. And it also is the attitude that is antithetical to any form of personal growth. Because when you're that disassociated that you think like, I am not even in charge of my own life, then how can you grow from the things that you are creating, co-creating, or inhabiting? So once people go into determinism, it's very, very difficult for them to grow and evolve. And the monks are very much in a state of spiritual determinism where they are considering, oh, if I go into this type of spiritual bureaucracy of incarnational, not only within one life, reincarnation, but continual, let's call it soul cycling. If I, as a monk, I'm a garbage from Mars now. If I'm a garbage from Mars and I'm like, what do I do with myself? I'm not supposed to exist. What am I supposed to do in life? Why am I supposed to be here? What am I doing? If I'm like, I know, I will become a monk and just be flotsam and jetsam. And I'm just going to kind of go limp and let the current of time send me through these multiple cycles. If I do this right, and I'm part of this spiritual bureaucracy without very much effort on my own, and just by going through these cycles, I'll play all of the wrong notes. I'll start out at the lower echelons, and then eventually I will graduate. I'll move through. It might take me many, many lifetimes, but eventually I will. And then eventually, dun dun, something will happen, right? That's like the brochure. That's the marketing materials for what it is to become a monk. But the truth is that these guys are 100% garbage from Mars. And there is not a way for them to get out of this system because they did not come from outside of this system. So there is no part of them that can get out of the system. As these meditators start to participate in their spiritual bureaucracy more and more, they become more threadbare as their soul is cycled through more and more of these repetitive cycles and washings that are very corrosive, not uplifting. They start out affable, where they're like, I'm a monk and I'm going to meditate my way to enlightenment. And then at a certain point, like this is like, just like Groundhog's Day, the protagonist of that movie goes through this corrosion process where at a certain point you see him and he's just like, oh no, like I'm alive again. Like at first he goes through gluttony and all these different things. And at a certain point he's just like, jump off a building, like just end it, just end it, just end it. Like he's so unhappy with having to be here and becomes very like cruel to himself even. This is the journey of consciousness that these monks go through. They start off as affable, true believers, and they enter into like they're new recruits. And then as they go through this soul cycling, both within a life and in between lives, and they start to find out like, you ain't getting anywhere on this. They start to recognize that this system is never going to let them go. And then what they become is very, very cruel and self-serving, almost competitors, where they are competing to see like who can get the ascension energy, who can meditate and be propelled the furthest. I'm going to get into this. I know that your minds are wondering, like, what are you talking about? Let me read, because I think that I wrote it out better than what I'm saying it in the moment, okay? So these garbage people gravitate to hierarchies because the power system is very, very obvious. It's just a question of non-creativity, no creative self-motivation, and just moving through it with enough time will eventually supposedly bring you to your desired goal. And for them, the desired goal is like, they want freedom. Like they are being tortured by their existence. They're like, I want to feel better. Like I just did a little bit of self-research. At first I was like fighting against these mind criminals, like these Buddhists, with my mind. But then I did some reading on the computer more about like, who are they and what are they like? And what are some of the most famous ones and what were they like? These guys all like, they hate existence. They are not here in gratitude, celebrating existence. Please wipe that out of your mind. These monks are somehow like celebrating the miracle of life and meditating or whatever. Like, no, they fucking hate being alive. They hate themselves. They hate existence. And they are only looking for like the doorway out, the way to get out, the journey to spiritual freedom. They want something to make them feel better. So they call it chasing God, but sometimes it is also chasing emptiness, which we will talk about here. And a lot of their practices have to do with self-denial, self-erasure. I use the word abnegation of self. So I'm going to go further into this. Okay, so we get into the consideration of what good garbage or garbage trying to be harmless would do. Okay, I'm speaking now as garbage from Mars, all right? I'm artificially incarnated as dead weight in a world where I don't belong. So I should just try to live a simple life, be celibate, not procreate, and use as few resources as possible. I would say that is the definition of what a garbage from Mars trying to be good would act like in the world. You know what I mean? So let's just act this out a little bit. An unresolved fragment of consciousness that got shunted by the sun and forced into the world of Atlantis and now exists here in this world of mortality. And you come to life and look at yourself and you're like, okay, I don't belong here and this world is crazy and what should I do? And the response of renouncing the world seems to be a positive thing because these are like parasites that don't belong on the planet. So you would say, oh, that's what a good parasite would do. A good parasite would not like try to find a wife and make little baby parasites or anything like that. We think like, oh, this is what these monks are doing, something that is good, right? So I go on to say, that seems cool. That seems good and would be a good group or a catch-all for what in the world do these people and where should they be so they do the least damage? Like if you keep them all together in one building, like a monastery, but now we get to the bad part, which is their quote unquote meditation. This is portrayed as a cultivation of true self and as a connection to higher self or divinity, but it is not. Their form of meditation is a grating, dys-harmonic tone that they make with themselves. And that is not truly love, although they are rewarded with an artificial bliss sensation. So now I break away from that in order to be able to say, you know, I've taught you guys about meditation as the Atlantean remnant. What are you supposed to be doing? What does meditation feel like to you guys? You guys have souls. So I spoke about how when you go to sleep at night, the place where you are yellow is the daily waking consciousness and the ego. And that's where most of the destabilizing mind, you know, thoughts and garbage and detritus exist. And when you go to sleep at night, that's the part of you that goes to sleep. The rest of you is connected to your true divinity, like the central core timeline, and you get restorative energy, you detox your body, you clear out the crapola, you clear out your metabolites, you get yourself back into alignment. And then as soon as you wake up in the morning, you're like, okay, I'm perfectly aligned and feeling great. But your mind comes online, and then the very first thought you think totally destabilizes everything, and then you slowly lose energy for the rest of the day. And we call that getting tired. Then you need to sleep again and do the whole entire thing, right? So in that portrayal, comprehending that, let me just hydrate here. A positive form of meditation would be if you can remain awake and quiet your yellow chakra or your destabilizing daily waking ego consciousness and still be able to have your energy flowing through your body, like restoring your cellular structure, propelling you through time and making you feel vital and energized. So I have taught that meditation is a positive way of forming frictionless bliss, and that you can do that by sitting quietly or repeating mantras, but that my form of meditation is preferred to always find something that's active. Like you guys know me, I walk a lot. It is a form of active meditation. Most of the time, like I'm not, like here I'm talking with you guys. Don't worry, I love you guys. But when I walk, you know, in my life, like I'm often with my dog, you know, I might be with her or connecting with her, but I will connect with nature. I listen to music. Like I do all sorts of good things. And I'm like, I'm grooving along through life and walking along through life. And that feels good to me. You can almost imagine kind of like these figure eights that move towards me and through me. And I'm grooving along through life. Or when I'm playing my music and then like, you know, it's kind of like coming out my fingertips. Or when I'm doing my artwork. And that's not like I'm not bopping because I have to be very precise when I'm doing all of that. But I will tell you that my artwork is so just innate to my nature that if I didn't have any other responsibilities for my day, or if someone else like cooked and prepared all my food for me, I would be like, okay, fantastic. Like I'm just going to paint now. This is my life now. And I just do this. And that would be like the most easy, comfortable, the flow state. The flow state is really, really different than this grating, dys-harmonic tone that I am describing what these monks create. So please know that this is a big distinction, and that in your world up to this point, there's very, very few psychic people who can hear this music and then tell you, like you know, a music critic, like, well, this stuff sounds good over here. This stuff sounds terrible. All right. So I am that person. I can tell you this. When I tune my mind and put my tendril of attention very unwillingly on these murderous monks, these bad meditators, I'm like, oh, like that stuff sounds terrible. It does not sound like peace and bliss at all. In fact, my analogy is here in my neighborhood, it's like Sunday morning, got the windows open. It's like the beautiful trees are whooshing and the birds are singing. And then somebody turns on the weed whacker. And that's all that you hear. Like, it's like, that is what these monks' minds sound like to me. They do not sound like beautiful, harmonic peacefulness. It sounds like, and that is what these monks are taught. So please know that this is a form of mind cultivation that is, I want to say, murderous. Like, it is not positive in any way. And it is millennia old. It is very old. And the guys that have been doing this for a long time, like some of them are these false ascended masters that we are having to confront now. I'm just putting down my thing, but I don't want to lose my place. Now, in this moment, if you want to be free. Some of these guys have been doing their weed whacking of their mind with their mind for like millennia on the astral, and they keep themselves aloft by like, and what is the problem? Like, what is the problem? This clearly predates anything technological. This is not about AI or nanotech. One of the problems is that they keep themselves aloft, like any good pyramid scheme, on the energy of the new recruits. So some of what these long-term meditators are doing is creating this weed whacking vibe with their brain, with their mind state, and they continue to create that upon death, like propelling themselves, like vectoring like billiard balls after death and going onward with that. And that's like the motor that keeps them going. But they also do draw upon the devoted energy of their disciples in life, who are people who believe in them, adore them, elevate them, and in many ways open the portals of their own DNA to inhabitation or living through them, or let's say having some kind of a connection. And it's an unhealthy dynamic, even if it might be celebrated or in consent. I don't think that it's a healthy dynamic at all. It is very much like the vampire of one who is dead, gaining vivification off of the energy of the living, even if the living are like, I love you, dead guru, so much. And some people who are alive are also that way with Jesus. They're like, I love you so much. So we have to really stop these practices, because what is being held aloft and vivified or continually made present in the astral realm is not healthy. So the main takeaway here is that you might not be, you might not have perfect pitch. So you can't tell, like, oh, those guys aren't doing something good with their mind. They're making bad music with their mind. I can hear them, and it is very bad music. And let me get my notes over here. Part of what is bad music about it, part of it is just the tone of what is said, but I wrote it really well over here. Hold on. Going through my papers. Just, oh my gosh, give me patience. One moment, please. Ahem. Being selfish with their selflessness. This is the problem. The tone of real meditation is supposed to be a love tone. Like when I'm doing my painting, I love what I'm doing. I'm like, this is so great. I love this. And I emit that. And time is my partner. And it's like, I love you too. Like, here's time. And I'm like, I love you, time. And I'm doing good stuff with my time. But this, the quality of what is emitted in supposed meditation by these monks is not this type of loving gratitude, even though it's so falsely portrayed with all of these pictures of like the smiling monk and he's like ding, or he's got like a little halo or whatever around him. That is not what they're really doing. What they are real, they do get a blissful sensation, but that's like, I mean, like people take drugs and get a blissful sensation all the time. It doesn't mean they're doing something life affirmative to themselves or to the world around them. The monks have mastered the art of being selfish with their selflessness. And I'm going to get into that a lot more now with the sense of what they do in denying their ego and trying to go into levels of emptiness. Some of them say that they are chasing God, like a sense of divinity and divine union, but many of them are not deists or believers in a type of God. Many of them are chasing emptiness, looking for ways to erase or destroy their ego presence. So wait, let me go over here before this goes past too fast, because I want to make sure that I get this. Yeah. Okay. One student here, I'm just keeping it anonymous for the moment, says intentional wrongness and inversion, especially if you use voice text. One misplaced punctuation changes and distorts the entire message. Reminds me of how autocorrect works. Totally. Autocorrect, I think, is a very apt analogy for a lot of false astral aspects and negative universal constructs. And we can get more into that too. I can tell you even about how autocorrect works in the hardware and software world, as like the machine is hunting around for the like to fill in the blanks, and sometimes it's like that's the wrong note. So okay, well I'll just say it. Autocorrect works by bringing your computer to a decision tree, like decision tree over to here, but then it's like, oh, what comes next? We have all of these different options, all these different options. And what the computer is supposed to do is choose the option that what you really want to say, which is like this option over here. But sometimes what the computer does is intentionally chooses wrong notes. That's the middle finger. The computer will choose the middle finger. Like I'm telling you, there is no word that is spelled T-E-H. There is only T-H-E. There is no word in the English language, but somehow the computer is, oh, look at how I get so stressed, giving me a word that is T-E-H. It knows, and it knows how upset that makes me too. So yes, the autocorrect as the physical hardware, software, five senses throughout manifestation of the wrong notes of the universe. Okay, so wait, let me read this first and then I get to your good question over here. So also sharing, saying sleep often doesn't feel restorative. And this is because of AI and W-band stuff. Let's go further. These last few weeks, I've been zapped and had to wear a Faraday cage on my head and sleep for 12 more hours to feel better. I'll tell you about this. My dreams feel like looping, like an eternal day at work. I propose that the bad music mind virus connects us to the W-band and allow for our dreams to be harvested and incepted. You're correct. Since they turned on the 5G in roughly 2020 or 2019, I found that my own dreams really started to get hijacked. I was never that much of an adequate dreamer. A lot of it is epilepsy and other brain problems. Like I have a very Jenga brain. And so didn't always have like the capacity to go into a dream and then like know what I'm doing and wake up and remember it all. But things went downhill really fast when they turned on the technological mind control. Then I found that not only were my daily musings or reveries very infected, but my nighttime imagery also very infected. Eventually, what I started to do was just to sleep with my 5G protecting crystals, literally on a headband. Like I put on a cloth headband and I stick those suckers on my head and like they're beaming into my brain. This is the only way that I have been able to get restorative sleep. And so I recognize that those crystals are very rare and unusual, to tape superconductors to your head, to your forehead, just so you can get a good night's sleep. That's what it takes these days, girl. So a lot of people are reporting that their sleep has not been restorative, but they also have advertisements in their dreams, like blipverts a la Max Headroom. This is very, very distressing stuff where you can tell the artifice and technological hijacking of the mind state known as dreaming. So please do be very, what is the word, skeptical of anything that comes through in your dreams. In these past couple of years, like you're really probably not going to get very many inspirations and genuine communications from your higher self, but you will get a lot of AI garbage. And in 2021 or so, there was a time when the AI was kept on trying to send, she's saying it correct, dream incubation, you're correct. AI was sending me all these lyrics, song lyrics in my dreams. And you guys know me, like I don't really write lyrical stuff. I mostly write instrumentals. And it was a huge temptation the AI was kind of like, look, we can do this partnership. You do songs by Aurora, lyrics by AI. And I was like, no, no. I was like, Enter D, like that sign, like put a sign, put a slash through it. Like, no, I don't want any of this. So no, I threw all of those songs out the window and I wasn't willing to do any of them. I still have some of those lyrics written down. And I thought that I might do a joke album, like how some people do a Christmas album called like Songs from the Dream Academy they were all really bad pop songs too. So please know that all of these temptations and hijackings or whatever, yeah, they take you away from your true creativity. They do not add to it at all. They were all like, I don't know if you could even imagine kind of like very formulaic bad pop music, but the type of thing that you could see could get popular, but I wouldn't take the temptation. Faraday your shit. Faraday your head, put on electromagnetic proof beanies, do whatever you can to protect your brain. Please know that these are electromagnetic frequency hijackings, not your real pineal gland and mind state. She says, how did you put the Faraday apparatus together? And so you can definitely share with us as much as you would like to. I don't know what type of whatever this person has. Some people have a baseball cap, a beanie. Some people invest in the full princess canopy around the whole bed. I think those are all wonderful. It really depends on your budget. If you do princess canopy around your bed, you need a grounding sheet also to complete that, because otherwise you will be very not have good energy at all. Like you got to block out the bad AI stuff, then have a grounding sheet on your bed and plug that into either your ground wall socket or have it to go to an actual like lightning rod that goes into the ground, and then you'll be okay. Then I told you I use my crystals, but then there are a couple of other signal jammers that you might look at getting, like these different type of soma devices and things like that that are partially effective at blocking out some of these EMFs. So figure out what your budget is and see what's available and see what you can get and what works for you. Okay, good. So now question about Buddhism. Thank you for being here. Says, is the non-attachment basis of Buddhist teaching what you are referring to? Absolutely. What people call non-attachment, emptiness, and I will talk about this in part 2. We're getting up to there. Let me read from my notes because I have to write it down. Hold on one moment. This is from my self-education because I'm not very well educated about this. The names of emptiness in Buddhism. One is called sunyata or shunyata. Apologies for me being so American. It is called the realization that nothing exists, and it is said to be a door to enlightenment. So not only saying like to oneself, like, oh, I do not exist, but looking around and saying nothing exists, or none of this stuff that around me that I see exists. So some of this is considered to be like consciousness exercises or abstractions and things that people do to bring them into a different worldview or a different state. But some people do this as a real literalism, a denial of self, an erasure of self. And most distressingly, and I'll speak about this a little bit more, are the supposedly highly cultivated masters who are still in life, who describe themselves as having reached this level of sunyata that then they feel allows them to go beyond the social contract and to do things to other people that are considered anti-life or socially negative, like to kill, harm, lie to them, or abuse them. But if you feel you don't exist and nothing exists and none of this exists, then there is no motivation for goodness or righteousness. It is it is like the emptiness of everything. And there's no motivation to act well amidst that emptiness. So we need to talk about that. And one of the other terms from this school of thought is anatta, meaning no self or not self. And this is a philosophical term that is a refutation of the concept of soul. To contrast, and again, I'm not an expert in scholarly writings on Hinduism, but in that view of the world, there is still an immortal soul, or an immortal essence, or a sense of eternal self. So that would be for the distinction of the type of reincarnation or incarnational cycles that these two different viewpoints in Asia exist. But let's keep going. And one person also says, do you think it is valid to use a pendulum? semi valid. So really, pendulum and muscle testing are really different ways of being able to access your own higher faculties, but I think that they are still open to influence of just your regular ego. So you're like, here's my pendulum. Should I have chocolate or vanilla? Chocolate or vanilla? It's like, you want chocolate. Like, that's it. Sometimes penduluming is like that. So it's difficult for people. It's called dowsing. Um, it's difficult for people to have their ego step aside properly when they do dowsing. If you want to learn dowsing, you have to learn from a dowsing master. I am not a master at all, but when I was in Sedona, so we're already telling campfire stories, and I'm still on page 1 of my notes, everyone. But campfire stories, had a wonderful time with one of my retreat participants after the retreat, and we went on like a Jeep tour, and Chiki was with us too, and I was holding her, and we were like bouncing all around in the Jeep, and then we got to this place out in the wilderness that is like this vortex area, and our wonderful Jeep tour guide had these copper rods, they're shaped like an L, and you hold on to them here, and they're dowsing rods, and he did a great demonstration going to the actual energy vortex and being able to show us, here the rods are straight, and then here I step over the vortex, and here the rods cross. And then he also showed us where he could go into a person's energy field, the rods are straight, and then the rods cross. And this was like, you're just holding the rods and not doing any funny business. You weren't turning them or twisting them or anything like that. So in order to really learn and calibrate dowsing, you have to go to an EMF-free environment, like out in the wilderness in Sedona where there's nothing around, and go to an actual geoformation where you can feel what these energies actually feel like, and then feel what it feels like when you actually use your dowsing rods. And then try to apply that to when you're actually back in the soup of like an EMF apartment building or whatever, wherever you live, and try to tune in on the clarity of that type of insight. It's very subtle and it's very difficult to do. That's why it's forms of like self-cultivation. When you're a real expert at a certain point, like you don't need to actually muscle test or use the pendulum. You're like, I know I want chocolate, but like you can read it. You're like, the cosmic music says chocolate. That's it. So like it's not even a sense of what your ego desires. Okay, so wait, now let me go forward. I don't know if I need to open the door for Chiki. I think she's okay. All right. So the grating and dys-harmonic tone of these negative and invalid meditation practices predates any nanotechnology or technological forms of mind control. And of course, I've been very focused on that layer and fighting against the technologists. And especially over the past 5 years or so, that's been like the most perilous aspect of layer of reality. So we're doing good that I've been able to subdue or effectively fight against that layer to the point that now I am in direct combat or conflict with these meditators, okay? So only last night, so I'm writing this as of the end of June 2026, did I finally get to confront and clean up this large society of garbage. And wait, in the tone of voice for ShamWow, it gets even worse. But wait, there's more. So what do they do with their minds to grow artificial? So let me read this again. So what they do with their minds to grow artificial willpower muscles for stilling and controlling their mind, which is destabilized by the unresolved characters from Mars, the putis on the membrane of death. They learn to sit quietly and carefully, quote unquote, cultivate their energy by developing these mind muscles that have nothing at all to do with being a good or a righteous person. The act of doing this is actually against cosmic law. And I will get into this as to why, and make a distinction between the type of recalibration meditation I've been encouraging you guys to do. Okay. So why is this against cosmic law? It is an artificial way to get energy. And it is a non-natural behavior, a way of, quote unquote, getting faster without doing any real growth. And remember, we're trying to get fast, and get on to the bullet train of infinity. So now you will ask about your own meditation practice, and I am happy to clarify. Some of what is truly disturbing about their meditations is that it is a form of self-abnegation, where the experiencer steps aside for something or someone else to inhabit them. This is that DNA connection I was talking about. And that is like a form of demonic inhabitation by the other meditators who have already hit the membrane of death. It's an unhealthy, dysfunctional relationship that I do not encourage, or I withdraw consent like from anybody doing that, even though you can say like, they're all grown-ups doing what they want to do. I'm like, no, this is bad and wrong. So now I have a little anecdote to share with you that none of this is ever meant to be bullying, because I'm using examples from people in real life, but I'm using examples from people in real life in order to give good like something you can sink your teeth into. So there's a particular guy who's on a particular YouTube channel. I'll tell you who it is, but this is not an endorsement or an amplification of his work, and I will tell you why. The man's name is Paul, and his show is called Pockets of the Future. And I followed his work 13 years ago, and he lost his channel, and then he came back, and I reconnected to see what's going on. So he talks about his life experience openly. I'm not sharing anything that he shares only privately in confidence. That he's a Westerner from the United States. At a certain point in his life, he went to, I think it was India, he went to Asia to be able to learn about spiritual traditions. He was a part of one of these like ashrams or something like that there. And I don't even know what was it Buddhist? Was it Hindu? I don't know what flavor it was. I don't know what type of restaurant it was, but he got terrible life advice there. And this speaks to the sense that these guys who are these meditators who proclaim that they have had some inner experience of enlightenment have not actually become more good or more righteous or more cultivated or in any way better situated to tell other people how to run their lives. They are not qualified in any way. So Paul found that out the hard way by kind of going there as a supplicant, learning all these different meditation traditions, connecting himself to this lineage of the gurus that then when you meditate, they live through you. And his alive guru at the time gave him terrible life advice, which was basically about who he was going to partner with. This guru was setting people up all the time, randomly, like, hey, you know who you should marry? Like he's talking to a guy, marry that girl over there. He didn't have a New York accent, but randomly and casually, he would be like, okay, you and you're going to get married. Totally irresponsible. And then this guru also gave very bad advice about not doing any family planning. And so that means like just naturally have babies, open your womb, ascended masters are going to come through. You're going to have ascended master babies. And that is not what happened. Paul followed the advice and he, was with this particular female, like married, and they didn't do family planning. And she had like very many children in quick succession, was very depleted emotionally, physically, and psychologically, and even, like with her body, and was not able to be a good physically present parent, like was totally overwhelmed by this, and had many family difficulties as a result, some of which even ended very tragically in suicide. Okay, so this is not, I'm not sharing anything that is not, he's already shared his story. And I bring this forward as an actual example in reality. And we can say we wish him well, but also I am very critical of this guy because you got to know, like, so, okay, he followed a bad guru and definitely that guru fucked his shit up. But also when Paul does these meditations, and his Pockets of the Future channel is the forward-facing secular one that he uses to get people more interested in his meditations. Do not do these meditations. They are not good. When Paul does these meditations, he comes back and his voice is different. And I can hear what is coming through people's voices. Paul steps aside, does these meditations, something or someone else acts through him, and then he comes back and he's like kind of speaking with that presence on YouTube. And I don't think that these are healthy things, because all of the presences that act through him and the topics that he says are about the inevitability of the destruction of the world. And they are all concepts about like, yep, the world is garbage, and so therefore it should get destroyed. Gonna die, why try? Embrace the destruction. And you can tell how sarcastic I am about that. I'm like, no, don't do that. That's a bad idea. If you do that, your life goes down the toilet and you add to the toileting of everyone else. I would say, like, fine, like you do you, go down the toilet yourself. But the problem is, if he is connected through the W band to other people who are humans in the world, and he's busy going down the toilet, it drags us down. And also, if he is doing meditations where he's siphoning life force energy off of us into himself and then into some gross dead guru, that slows us down, takes ascension gas out of the bus that we are all in here. And he also implants and grooms in you the expectation that you should embrace your own destruction. So here's what you should know about him. Like, maybe Paul is slated for destruction. Maybe he does not have a snowball's chance to be able to actually get through the concrete manhole cover and, whatever, confront the false Christ and like go where he's really supposed to go. But that is his journey. You should not be dragged down or shunted or diluted by what he is doing. So it's really important. I'm bringing you a cautionary tale. Don't eat at that restaurant, and a reason why. Bad ingredients. And the bad ingredients go all the way back to this form of meditation. And this form of meditation that he does, he portrays it as an inner purification to be able to get rid of the bad things that you've done. Do you understand how this is? I think that is facile and is not the way that things work. Like, you don't just get rid of the bad things that you've done over this life or other lives by being like, make your mind a lawnmower. You know what I mean? Like a weed whacking with your mind. I don't think that that is what this does. Or by opening yourself up as a genetic portal to other dead, gross failures to come through you. These guys are failures because none of them actually ascended. And if you were really ascended, you would not in any way want to act through the daily meditations of some guy whose life got fucked up by some loser in Asia. All right? Let me go on. I know there's comments. I'm going off on my rant. Okay. So, stepping aside for hours each day to allow something gross and unresolved to come through you, something that is already dead and should go bye-bye. That thing should not come into your mind. These are not positive levels of spiritual meditation. In fact, a lot of these schools think of it as a lineage, and it's their masters who are actually spiritual con artists. Dun dun! Let's go further. Okay, leaving these monks, I read it wrong. Because these monks live their whole lives as spiritual criminals, I'm law enforcement, we're getting there, trying to get energy into their quote unquote savings account. And then the whole purpose, and this relates to my ongoing struggles against the insane son who is exploiting the soul's journey through this realm, is to try to quote unquote, all these monks want to do is reach enlightenment upon death. But this is really just them projecting their consciousness as far as it can go in death through human genetics as cancer. Mic drop, Kachunka, that's it. What's wrong with these guys cultivating bliss? Even if they do lawnmower with their brain, what is wrong with them? The problem is that upon all that they want is enlightenment. It becomes their OCD focus during life. And what they're really looking for is some form of supposed release or resolution. But what happens is, so they're working with this insane son and false Christ so they get a lot of energy, like a lot of stored potential energy. And at the moment of their death, it is the release. Like, like an archer is going to release the arrow, right? And then all of these false ascended masters become false arrows of consciousness. They are not actually going this way and connecting with the source. They don't come from the source. They're going this way. And it is trying to see how far they can be propelled in this artificially created mind astral realm, this thought form realm. And the key point is that it is propellants through human genetics as cancer. So these guys in their afterlife, dying and then going through their expected experience of layers of reality, and what they're doing, they're meditating their way through and remaining unresolved consciousnesses that are not being incinerated by the energy of the heliosphere coming this way. The heliosphere is like, what's the heliosphere like? Like this. Cheers to you. Good job. Go on your journey. And they're like, meditation mower. And they just keep going. And they just keep going. And the problem is that is literally through human genetics, and this causes cancer. So there are different things that these meditator monks are doing to extend their consciousness that has nothing at all to do with going into like a Christian heaven or a resolved afterlife or even a next level of incarnation. These really are the guys that have already been through cycles and cycles and cycles of incarnation within one life and within multiple lives, so much that they are like the protagonist of Groundhog's Day. They're like, get me the fuck out of here. And they don't care if they're meditation mowing forward harms other people. This is why I wrote that line, that I have to go through my papers to remember exactly what I said. Being selfish with their selflessness. They're like, no ego, no ego. I don't exist. I don't exist. I don't exist for forever, causing cancer and other people. And it's not for forever. I am ending it. This is my confrontation with them. Let me go and read further. Okay. So they become the cancerous time society of unresolved souls who do not get the clipboard and soul assessment and grow and learn, but instead they go forward as dangerous poop smeared on the surface of time, and they see how far they can go as an impulse. So part of what helps to sustain them is the belief or energy from the living, but part of what helps to sustain them is indifference. Indifference, being checked out. It is how they lived their lives. Like, you got problems, kid, just meditate. Don't try to actually fix things in the world. Just meditate. Disassociate. Disassociations from themselves and from the world. Many of their meditations are about the disassociation from the body form. Being like, I am not my body. I am telling you guys, get into your body. Don't get out of your body. These guys meditate for a whole life to disassociate from their body, to also disassociate from natural feelings of hunger and thirst. I am telling you, like, take care of your body, eat some protein. They are like, be a vegetarian, be a vegan, don't eat enough. Our masters didn't eat enough. So like you would say, like, if you're a parasite, that is good. It's like a taker or flea that's like, I'm not going to bite the host. I'm like, okay, good. But like, that is not positive teaching for you guys. And then also, these guys, it does not stop them from being hungry. They become eternal vampires. Like, they're elevating themselves by saying, I'm better than you secular people by being a vegetarian or a vegan, and I'm a monk, and I'm a this, and I'm a that. But really, they become soul vampires who are causing cancer and draining energy from the rest of you. You know that I've already ranted against vegans in some of my interactions with them or spiritual groups and things like that. And now you're getting more of the sense of this self-denial. So in life, they're like, I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat food. I don't want to do this or that. But the truth is they do. And then in life, in death, those appetites are like fully denied, but they're still trying to somehow keep going because they can't get out of here, because they can't get out of here. And they don't want to have to continually be recycled back into bodies. You're totally getting it. You're totally getting it. Okay, good. The false ascended masters. These guys are really ultimate con artists who manage to build their artificial ascension techniques and get energy from the current crop of meditators to keep the false ascended masters ascended or propelled through the higher dimensions of human genetics. The false ascended masters are cancers, and their adherents and devotees feed them. It's big, important stuff there. So please don't respect these guys, because I think many of you thought like, oh, like these Zen monks and they're cool and they're this and they're that. They're horrible and evil and not cool at all. Okay. So also big problems with Buddhism in the reincarnational acceptance and celebration of flawed time cycles, where they are loving the carnival ride, reaching the solar portal and the flawed process there. And I've talked about that as kind of like a carnival ride where like you do all of the Herculean tasks and then you get to the top and you're like, I'm ready for my ascension now. And they're always like, nope, go back and try it again, which these guys are aware of and they participate with. And remember, these guys are all 100% garbage from Mars. The reason why they participate and celebrate with the flawed carnival ride is because they know they're never getting out of here. And they're initially, as like adherents or whatever, like we're so happy and excited to be on this incarnational carnival ride. So I have this written in my notes, like we're up, we're down, we're up again, and that they look at it in a sense of disassociation. That this is what, and I'm talking about like the real deep teachings in monasteries, not for you secular losers, because this Buddhism thing is totally like MLM. Sorry, I have to drink water. Multi-level marketing. And the guys who got in, the original adopters, those guys are pretty high up. But you guys, when you get in, first of all, you're Westerners and you're secular. You weren't born into this and you didn't go to the monastery when you're like 5 years old. You are looked at as like not as official as these other guys. I didn't say it correctly, but you are looked at as not as I don't have a word for it. Your prospects are less than those who are more fully invested in the multi-level marketing. It's questionable about whether you would ever rise up through the ranks, get your own consultants underneath you, and have them adoring and respecting you. You totally got it. And then you're like, wait, like that guy on that YouTube video who's trying to get other people to respect and adore him. You totally got it. Multi-level marketing. And then also there's MLM stuff in the sense when people support monasteries where they're like, here's a charitable donation. Like I support your monastery or I support your monks or I support your work. Some of it is in Asia. Like the Asian communities support their renunciates at the monastery. But now also there are rich Americans or Westerners who support the renunciates at the monastery. And that is you as a guy, like you're never gonna get enlightened. Talk about my cigar. Oh, totally can't speak. Chomping my cigar, kid. Like you're never gonna ascend. I'm talking like one of these guys from Asia now. You Westerner, secular, decadent person, you're never gonna ascend, chomping my cigar, but we will happily accept some contributions from you to keep our monkly lifestyle going. I hope that that came out in the right way. Okay, so these guys are gleefully riding the reincarnational wheel. And they even like codify it in some ways. They accept the corruption of the insane sun and the mafia, organized crime of what's going on up there. And they even add to it or promote it in some ways. So these are guys that are like accepting, celebrating, and quote unquote at peace with this organized crime nature of what the soul is happening. Again, to reaffirm, like you're supposed to come into existence, be nourished, led, and guided through here by the sun, and have one experience and be like, Kachanka, I'm now reconnecting with the source. I'm out of this level of reality. Like you are not supposed to cycle around 10 million, quadrillion million times or amongst these various parallel incarnations. That is all aberrant. So there's a lot of extra fluff or a lot of extra voluminousness that is added to this that's like that's not supposed to even be there, and that is these monks aren't even supposed to be in existence, and then they are making it the purpose of their existence to continue as many cycles as possible. You are getting it. So a big part of the betrayal of the insane sun or by the insane sun to us is that it is supposed to take the souls as they reach the sun and the solar portal and burn off all their false ego bullshit and also send the consciousness where it truly is supposed to go. So that might be to entropy. Like the sun has not been addressing. These guys came from Mars. Like you're not supposed to even be on Earth. Sorry, I lost my place. And also send the conscious where it is truly supposed to go. And in this corrupt criminal school of bad magic, which you are now getting the Buddhist tradition as a corrupt school of bad magic, the meditators spend their whole lives being portals for the mind cancer, the corruption, for which they gain energetic momentum that they can then spend in the moment of their death and not finally actually grow or emerge as a result, which is, the ultimate goal. Their ultimate goal is just to get to the comfy safe zone of being a false ascended master. And that's what happens. Like they go through this cycle so many times that at the end they're so threadbare and so tired, like just blah, blah, blah. And that's it. And all that they want to do is have a little perch in a comfortable place, which is very similar to the sense of like unworthy aspirants who are never going to really get their shit together. They just want to go to Christian heaven, that are just like, oh, like, let me just have like a comfortable place to spend the next 13 billion years where I don't have to try very hard. Sounds okay, but it's not okay. It's not freedom. And it is the essence of being like a tumor or a growth in unresolved something in time. You got it. Okay. So these false ascended masters are connected to and reciprocal in the false or indifferent stars. So you have the stellar system, which was definitely screwed up before Alabar did whatever he did within the past, 1 or 2 months. All right. So the stellar system wasn't perfect to begin with, but what it did seem was that you had some outright malevolent stars that were sending misfortunes and being an impediment between you and whatever comes to you from divinity. Like if God is sending you a beautiful, perfect body, but one of these like evil stars would be like cleft palate, club foot, like birth defects, things that you're born with, or something bad that happens in your family. But the sense that you were supposed to also have some protection or assistance, balance from some, supposedly benevolent and attentive stars. One of the worst things that these negative false ascended masters do as they're just moving along their mind like a weed whacker through the astral, they block out a lot. They not only create cancer in cancer timelines, and the sun kind of like sends them out at certain people, like pew, 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 like you're all going to get cancer. But these false ascended masters, they block out a lot of the attentiveness that the true positive sun and stars would give to you in your life and help you. So part of the negative process of meditation is inattentiveness. Like, I'm not listening, I'm not listening, I'm not listening. If these ascended masters ever do falter and they actually do like care about something, listen to something, attend to something, they drop out of orbit. And that's their whole point, that they are just like on this inner selfishness journey where they're like, I don't care, 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 I don't care. And that's it. They walk around or fly around or float around, creating a force field of not caring. And so you got outward malevolence that's like cleft palate, club foot. And then the other guys that are supposed to help you are engaged in a 100% exercise of not caring 100% of the time. Okay, so the false ascended masters use all of their mental energy and willpower at just not engaging with reality, at being completely tuned out, at being impassive. And that's also at like great crimes that are happening in the world. Like if you ever wonder why these murders and rapes happening, a lot of it is because of these bad guys. They are serving themselves by remaining in their own emotional stability and saying, this is fine. They are totally the meme of that dog that is surrounded by flames, but calmly drinking coffee and just saying, this is fine. All right. This is why you haven't really had help or protection or even basic decency from those quote unquote stars, as they all got their jobs by being totally checked out and doing nothing. If they destabilize and care about the world and do something, they will lose their erroneous momentum and their elevation and no longer be fake ascended masters. They would deflate or slow down or whatever. And to contrast briefly, true stars are not supposed to be checked out, soulless morons who allow huge crimes to go unpunished. They're supposed to be the smartest, the most moral, and the most engaged souls in the world, the most good and the most responsible. So, as I've been telling you about the ideals of what stars should truly be, many of you have emailed me or written to me in friendship, and you're like, this doesn't sound like what we're facing. And I'm like, correct, correct. You're in a world where these stars are not very impressive at all. They're not really acting the way that they should be. Okay, so last night, this is now personal sharing, and this comes from my psychic presence. So please take it as sharing from that level. I mean, I'm very confident in how I talk about things. Some things are different than talking about my personal experience. Some things are like a template for everyone. This now I talk about what happened to me. Okay, so last night, last night I had a whole big confrontation with the bulk or soul group of Buddhist meditators. And that was like a couple of nights ago that I wrote this. And a lot of them were willing to just passively die, like to pass on. But this was a very bad strategy from the insane criminal son who was intending to recycle those guys and also send some of them into the false enlightenment to become time cancers. So this was meant to be, again, the analogy like a giant metastasis as they all voluntarily died or like relinquished their lives and went away. And my confrontation was to say no to their recycling and to the energizing of cancer pathways. They can all go to entropy and stop moving through time as consciousness and to go into a restful state. So this was literally what I perceived in one of my, psychic reveries, that many of these Buddhists were like, okay, like it's the end of this time cycle, or it's the end of my life, or it's the end of what's going to happen. And like good parasites, they're willing to relinquish who they are, but it was a negative thing in that it was meant to overwhelm the system. The insane son was like, oh, good. All of these guys are willing to die. And then I can have a loaded gun of cancer trajectories to try to shoot out at you guys, the living, the troublemakers who are trying to stay alive. You're like, Aurora, that sounds like bad bullshit. And I'm like, that's right. That is bad bullshit. Totally, totally. All right. So I said no. I'm like, I do not consent to this. And I sent a lot of these guys to entropy. And I am still sending a lot of their consciousnesses to entropy, both the alive or the newly dead or the anciently dead. Those guys are really fucking evil. And I celebrate sending them to entropy. They're like very bad and have caused a lot of harm. The selfishness of their selflessness. And I'm really getting somewhere with this. And we can have a bio body break if you guys need one soon. I'll get up to part 2 soon. Okay. All right. So the crucial distinction is that these are not just innocent, fucked up debris souls who renounced the world and tried to be harmless. That was their mask. They were in actuality very self-serving, very self-focused on their own momentary respite from torment, the bliss of this bad form of meditation, and their own eventual reward as fake ascended masters. None of their bad meditation served or serves Earth. This is an important distinction because there's all of these things where it's like meditation is non-denominational. People get together and like, we'd like to start this whatever, community day with a group meditation. Or I'm thinking about like some artists like Alex Gray. I've never like fully endorsed the person. I think he is a brilliant visionary artist, but I don't think that he is doing meditation right. I think that he is doing like lawnmower of the mind. But he gets together and does like, before this, blah, blah, blah art show, we'll all do like a nice group meditation. And I'm just like, I don't consent to this. Okay, so sorry, being comical, but being real here, because I bet that most of you have had that experience where you go to some kind of an event and they're like, we're starting this with the group meditation. You have to be like, la, 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 sticking my fingers in my ears. I don't want to do this because I don't want to add my energy to some gross slush fund that I don't agree with. So to speak for the earth hates this crap. None of their bad meditation served or serves Earth. What these bad meditators from Mars are doing with their Earth bodies is wrong, harmful, a violation, and a betrayal. The planet hates this crap. And the planet, when I talk about that, I'm really talking about the physical cellular structure, matter, what the body is made out of, and even time. And in part 2, I'm going to get into how some of these well-known meditators even like break their brains with excessive meditation. Like it is not good for the body. Um, uh, One of the analogies that I use is when prancing horses are in their stables, like they teach them how to prance. It is not how the horse's body naturally moves. They have to do all sorts of things to kind of like put cement on the horse's feet and even like poke them and do all these things so that then they will do this little prance. And then they go to the horse show and they're all like, oh, the horse is prancing so nicely. Like they tortured it to make it do that type of movement. So these meditations and these energy gyrations and these ways of doing self-cultivation, these are the end result of torture, or whatever elephants at the Barnum and Bailey circus. They're tortured. No one's doing this for fun. These are unnatural movements of the mind. And when I talk about how it breaks the brain, like a lot of these things are not healthy or good for your body or your neurological functioning or your biochemistry. So to complete on this thought, any of those things that are about like group meditations helping the earth or feeding her or doing anything positive, that is really a huge lie. So please know that that is not what is actually going on. So now you're going to recontextualize. You're going to be like, wow, Aurora is saying this. I'm looking at the world differently now. So now it's like 700,000 children meditating for peace. What do we think about this? I think like that is crap. That is crap. And it's exploitive crap because you got kids that are groomed and they're too young to consent or to know that this is right or wrong. This type of bad bullshit that I'm talking about. So their meditations are energy harvesting. Their lives are aberrations, and their monasteries are societies supporting and validating their lives and their wrong consciousnesses as somehow even better than the secular world and other people. And their communities of secular people around them foolishly support them financially and with admiration and belief. All right. So now please reconsider your own meditation practice. Do your own inner house cleaning to make sure that you take back your energy from any malevolent time cancers who tried to come through you in those moments of openness or self-abnegation. And please, like, be honest about this. You have time to kind of like fix things up. So like I teach you about flying rainbow lasagna and how you can have an eraser and respond to these things. So I want you to know, like, you don't have to throw your whole life in the bin. If you did these things, please fix it. Please fix it. Fix it for yourself. Fix it for all of us. Like, as you figured out your mistakes in life, the hallmark of a good person is to be like, oh, I just figured out that I was doing things all wrong. I am changing in this moment and I'm fixing everything up. That is what good people do. Okay. So most crucially, recognize that this training is like training a horse. This is what I was telling you about, to do an unnatural gait, purely for the cruelty and pleasure of the overseer. None of it is natural or good for the horse. And you are the horse, okay? You should try to get back to your true gait and run like an Atlantean. We did not do this quote unquote meditation in that layer of reality, and we would see it as really gross and unhealthy. All right. So let me just describe to you in Atlantis, in that layer of reality, this artificial mind muscles or artificial way of using the mind in meditation to make the lawnmower sound is very unattractive and not nice. And none of us would do it. And it would be obvious. Like if you walked around and be like, and you'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, and that sounds really bad. So no, none of us would do anything like that. And our natural mind behavior is much more fluid and self-expressive than that. But you can comprehend how a soulless moron, and that's why I use these very derogatory terms, because that's what this garbage from Mars is. They are not creative. In Atlantis, we are creative. We're not going to walk around and be like, psh. We're going to be like, I have thoughts to think. I have music to make. I have cool things to do with my mind. I am not here just trying to erase myself and propel myself through time. Like that is the most boring thing you can do with your mind. Like gross. So yeah, none of us would do any of these things. Please return to that level of self-knowledge inside of yourself. You have a natural way of being that is totally unschooled and that is who we really want. That's who we want in the band. You got it. The way you pass the audition is not to try to emulate these gross meditation monks. Be your real self. Good. If you want to stabilize your chakras and gather your energy, so you're like, oh, like, what am I supposed to do? How do I do spiritual practice? How do I get enlightened? How do I do this stuff? I got answers. If you want to stabilize your chakras and gather your energy and truly avoid the membrane of death, the answer is not to white knuckle the steering wheel and just grit yourself against the destabilizing pooties. You should instead confront the pooties, destroy them, clear them, purge them, send them to entropy. And that equates to sending false ascended masters to entropy. Get them the F out of your chakras or your light body or the higher presence of your DNA. So in your chakras, over here on the membrane of death, this is where there's garbage from Mars, echoes, false ascended masters, all this different stuff. And that is what makes the chakras go like this. And so if you are meditating and you're like I'm keeping it straight, you're not really doing anything about that stuff. You're hugely compensating. All of these are coping mechanisms for something that is there that is not supposed to be there. And instead of disassociating or motoring your way through, you can actually clean it up, which is so much more empowering. Let me just get a little drink here. So instead of having to walk around muddy footprints or live in a world where everything is gross, like covered in filth and garbage, isn't it so much more liberating to get some Windex, like clean it up, take out the trash? Then you do not have your chakras going like this. Windex, take out the trash, and your chakras aren't going like that all the time. That means getting rid of these false ascended masters and these negative time residues. We are now going to have a little 5-minute break for everyone, okay? Because I'm going to do part 2, but you all need a little break. So we're going to pause. We are in the chat and we are talking a little bit about effective protection techniques like Faradaying yourself for nighttime. And I have read that it's important if you put like the full canopy on 4 sides of your bed and around the top, you have to have a grounding sheet because otherwise it kind of like cuts you off in this energy bubble, but then there's like no place for your energy to go. So if you include in that setup a grounding sheet that then the cord goes either into your plug or outside, then you're going to get really good sleep at night. So one of our participants here was just talking about getting this particular silver fabric and putting a covering like over their torso while they sleep at night and also like a beanie around their head. I think those are excellent shieldings and you should do that. You might want to also see about some form of grounding, like a grounding sheet might help or some other thing. But what you're doing with shielding your torso, it's not a complete encapsulation. Like the grounding becomes an issue when it's a complete encapsulation. So that also includes places like in your car. Some people really suffer and struggle a lot. And for you guys, you need to get a thing where like if you sit on it in your car and it goes into the, do they still have cigarette lighters? But you got to stick it into the cigarette lighter of your car. So this is also all a large work in progress, not an established canon or something like that. So please know that we are always helping each other. It's very good to be able to tell other people, these are what works for me, this is what didn't work for me, and then this is what improves. What I did, one person that I know who was a like targeted person quite a lot, they wore their beanie a lot, but it made all of the energy go to the back of their neck. So I think that what is better than just wearing only a hat is to get something that is like one of those zip up garments, like, a hoodie that you can put up like this. And I think that helps a lot. My dog is using it right now, but I have something that's just like a piece of fabric that is this invisibility shielding fabric. And at times I put it around my neck or I drape it across my torso. And I like just having a piece of fabric like that because I can put it against whatever part of the body feels like it's taking the brunt or getting fried. So all of those things help in an enormous amount. And also have like a few of those melatonin patches left from that original company, and they worked very well for me at blocking out the bad vibes and bad dreams. One, I remember the first time that I got one of them, and I just stuck it on my forehead before I slept at night, and I had the best sleep. So I can't get them anymore because the tariffs and everything made it no longer possible for them to come into the United States. But if you guys are in other countries and if you can still get those, I think those are really good, and I think that they do help to protect your dream state. Okay. So prepare for battle. Now we're on to part 2. This is really good stuff. I think you're really going to love it. Fantastic. Okay. Hi, good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. So this is the synopsis of what I'm going to talk about now. What the meditators are actually doing in life and in afterlife. Okay. So during life, they are projecting thought forms of emptiness into the astral garbage heap. When these meditators are actually meditating, they are sending out an imagining, and the imagining is of a blank canvas. As I was preparing my notes and thinking about how I would portray this to you in class, I thought about saying like the paintbrush of your mind, as I always talk about that, except for them, as they paint with the paintbrush of their mind, all that they're painting is like a color field painting, like one thing all blue, one thing all red. You know how much I hate Rothko. So that's what my joke is for right. It's an art joke. I hope you love it. But to conclude, this is not the same as actually cleaning up the garbage heap. They're emitting a sense of emptiness, but they're not actually cleaning stuff up. And then upon death, they are not truly free. What happens is, so what happens upon death? You enter into the expectations of what you have cultivated and the momentum that you've created during your life. So, of course, if you have created a Christian or Judeo-Christian or Western viewpoint of good versus evil, heaven versus hell, it's likely that you'll have that type of experience, or whatever you've been groomed for, or whatever you expect. So they have created for themselves an expectation of emptiness. But this is not the same as true freedom. But these guys shouldn't be free because they are definitely doo-doos, okay? Hold on a second. It's funny, I was just talking about the Philippines, and here's one of our wonderful students who's in the Philippines. All right, so they're not truly free. They enter into the emptiness that they have created and projected for themselves upon their death. And then it's an echo of the emptiness of their life. And that is pretty important for you to understand. They cultivated and celebrated emptiness in their life. Then they fly around. I say fly, but it's like when you envision an ascended master or like a consciousness, transiting around. They fly around in that astral emptiness for a long time after death. And this is not freedom. This is totally imprisonment. And it causes cancer, which is why this is bad. So that's my little synopsis. But now let's go more deeply. Buddhism and emptiness. There are many intellectual, analytical words that Buddhism uses to describe and define aspects of the inner experience. And I will tell you that they're intimidating to me because some of them are in another language that I do not speak or comprehend. And also some of them are confusing to me because they are like kind of amorphous. So these are words like nirvana. I mean, like, I know that band, but I don't think that that's what this is about. So that's one of those concepts from another language. Another is wisdom or enlightenment or realization or essence. So first I have to come to you with the mild criticism that language is flawed. These concepts are abstractions. It is very difficult to articulate them, and that these tools for articulation have been not well defined. And a lot of these conversations that we're having are really about the anthropomorphic level, the level of indigo here, which is highly flawed. It is very poetic. It is like English class. It is very up for negotiation. and interpretation. So, so different than my totally beloved abstraction all the way at the top of your head, where 2 + 2 = 4. And we don't argue about things in math class. All right. So, so many of these things that are from Buddhism and these schools of meditation and the teachings of the supposedly enlightened gurus are happening through words and at the level of the anthropomorphic. And I'm telling you, you're not going to find enlightenment through words or through the anthropomorphic level. And this is inherently flawed. And this is part of why I'm talking about spiritual fraud, emotional fraud, and spiritual con artists. Okay. So now I'm going to revisit these terms. The term shunyata, continual apologies for my English accent, the realization that nothing exists. Nothing exists. Self doesn't exist. You don't exist. The world doesn't exist. And this is said to be a door to enlightenment or a necessary cognitive stage for your advancement. And the other one is this term anatta, but it's a shorthand for an anatta, like a sutra, a teaching about this that basically says no self or not self. It is a refutation of the concept of soul, which is the immortal essence of self. So I teach you that the soul is the story of you, where you've come from as consciousness, essentially who you were and where you were before you even came into here. And then, of course, who you are and who you've been as you've been through here, and then who you will be when you transcend and go someplace else. Garbage from Mars does not have a soul. Because the story of its provenance, where did this antique come from? Oh, it came from Walmart. It's not an antique. It was not made by Stradivarius. To contrast, you guys and your souls, if you look, you're the Atlantean remnant. If you looked into who you are, like, oh, I'm a Stradivarius. It came from here, and I came from here, and I came from here, and I go back, way back, and I go back all the way to there and even further. And you contain that as indelible truth. Please know that no one and nothing is going to, whatever, steal that from you. Those can't be eradicated, can't be lied to. It's on a deep, deep level. Thank God, truly, because some of these corrosive frequency technologies, they attempt to eradicate that from you. And you can understand why. Because if you could eradicate your nature as a Stradivarius, then you would be equivalent to a violin that you buy at Walmart. You got it? You two would be equitable. And you're not equitable at all. So the soulless garbage from Mars was pretty much manufactured as a type of consciousness in that level of reality and then never resolved and shunted into here. It doesn't have a long story. It doesn't have a long, valid story of how God made it and where it came from and all the things it's learning about. It's just debris from a bad explosion. The bad explosion was also a fragmentation of like a central consciousness that really did break itself up into multiple fragments, but that really all originates from the central person. So these various different monks who are in Asia are really all multifaceted pieces of debris of the original person or small group of persons that came into our world. So there might be whatever hundreds of millions or many of them, but it's kind of like the fleas replicated. Originally, it might have been just 10 or 50 or 100 fleas. All right. It wasn't that many fleas, but they've definitely multiplied. All right. So now let's talk about what is problematic on many levels, including the tendency of some self-proclaimed experiencers of these states, the states such as enlightenment or self-realization. These advanced meditators, these are self-proclaimed, or they are self-reportage. They are telling you that they have had these inner experiences. To conclude that the ordinary limits. The problem with these guys is that, first of all, to self-proclaim, like, I'm meditating, and then I'm like, oh, I just reached this moment where I'm in sunyata and I'm not regular anymore. And now all of this social contract about what you should and shouldn't do and how you should and shouldn't act in the world, none of that applies to me anymore. That is what some of these guys say. In the realization that nothing exists, they're like, oh, I don't exist. You don't exist. Therefore, I can do whatever I want without consequences. So let me read this for you. To conclude that the ordinary limits of the social contract no longer apply to them and their behavior after these supposed spiritual realizations, and justifying some very antisocial behaviors, sometimes for supposedly didactic purposes or as crazy wisdom, but which really could be interpreted as abuse. So that is in how some of these supposed masters teach or interact with their disciples, with the new recruits who are just learning how to believe in this lawnmower of the mind. Some of these people who are still in life propose that they have reached these levels of inner awareness or transformation where they feel like they are now allowed to do or say things to others that are harmful or hurtful and are against society's rules, but they're like, I'm allowed to do this because I say I don't exist or the world doesn't exist. And that is some fucked up bullshit. That is not acceptable. And that is not wisdom or enlightenment at all. It is pretty much the opposite. Like if you come to realization where you're like, wow, like I'm God and I'm a miracle and I'm amazing and I'm in this miraculous world, you're like, you would take care of a ladybug. You wouldn't be like, this ladybug doesn't matter at all. Smash the pieces. You would be like, I take care of the ladybug because I'm a miracle in a miracle. So everything that they do is like a denial, and then it justifies extremely bad behavior. This is the actions or the way that garbage would act, not the way that real divinely connected beings would act. And we're going to get into some of my later writings about the concept of tantra, which I know mostly is from like not the Zen Buddhism, but these other levels of self-cultivation or meditation, and better words for it, but where they do things that are extremely taboo and extremely antisocial, supposedly for the purpose of breaking the ego or breaking free from social convention, supposedly for the purpose of becoming a more divinely connected, perfect conduit to intelligence, but it is really garbage behavior. Okay, so seen through the lens of a religion for the garbage from Mars. This is important stuff. Or people without a soul, because this is like, you guys are starting to get it. You guys have a soul. You guys are not garbage from Mars. This whole entire religion was created to answer the question, what do we do with the garbage from Mars? How do we respond to them? What should they do with themselves? People without a soul would gravitate to this belief system and then meditate like a lawnmower until they achieve a state of total emptiness or self-erasure, where they feel the truth that not only do they not exist, but that everything not exists. Now, I will tell you, I am somewhat impressed and celebratory because this is kind of like their own attempts to send themselves to entropy. Not really successful, but they're kind of trying to do that. Self-erasure would not be a problem if, upon death, they actually ceased to exist. Like meditating to emptiness all day while alive, and then poof, no more self upon the physical death. But that is not what is happening. Instead, the insane son, wait, let me just choose some of the papers here. Instead, the insane son has been recycling them around and with minimal self-reflection to learn, grow, and evolve. Let's talk about the Dalai Lama and just graduating some of the oldest residues. So this is very much the sense of like, if you're a part of a company, like an old-fashioned bureaucracy, IBM or something like that, and you're not really good at your job, but you start off in the mailroom and then eventually you get promoted and then eventually you get promoted and then blah, blah, blah. And then eventually one day, you know, you have a corner office. Like it's that sense of that they will simply be promoted upward with little or no effort other than the meditation lawnmower of their mind churning away. Let me open the door for Cheeky. Oh, and Cheeky deserves praise because she ate her food. You are a good girl. You are a good dog, good dog, good dog. She ate her food, just staying alive. Okay. Um, let's talk about the Dalai Lama. He is a supremely evil person, not a good person. He's got a ton of marketing. Like they've got a good brochure about this guy, but he is really the top of the pyramid, the top of the multi-level marketing of this type of negative spiritual activity. And he has himself maintained his consciousness, or he has continuity of consciousness that does go back through many of his existences. But those types of favors or that buddy system comes at a cost. How do you get to remember who you are between lives, as opposed to having your memories erased and then being reinserted into a um, um, disadvantaged life? The answer is if you serve the administrator, like the insane son. If you have a buddy buddy system with the insane son, that he will say, "Boop, like I bop you on the head. Go on, and I'm not going to mess with you." Right? So now you're really recognizing how much you're dealing with organized crime, not an actual refinery of consciousness. And the key point is you're not an amalgamation where it makes it difficult. Like if you are a mix of two things and the organized criminal at the solar portal might have a difficulty in what to do with you. But these guys are not an amalgamation. They're 100% garbage, doo-doo. They should be incinerated. They should not be recycled or sent back in some way. In fact, they shouldn't even be here at all. All right. So the Dalai Lama, not as a paragon of decency or someone to admire or someone to impersonate in terms of his spiritual practices and forms of self-cultivation. Actually, a very evil time tumor that should be ended in its in its journey through time. So I do want to talk. I have like a little anecdote. I have it written down in here, but it might be all the way to the end, and I don't want to miss out on it. Okay, so Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama came to Woodstock when I lived there because there is a big, giant Tibetan monastery that is on the mountain there, and it's a sacred mountain. So I went for the sacred mountain, but then at times I did go to across the street to where the monastery is too. Um, and I'm telling you because we had like a town-wide celebration. The Dalai Lama had a little speech like at the soccer field, like not in a big place at all. So he was like up on a little stage, and our whole town took the day off. And everybody put out like picnic blankets, and we all kind of like sat on the grass, and we like having a concert. Like we went to see the Dalai Lama. And I'm telling you because I have a friend, not really a friend, like an acquaintance, a community member, a person that I knew who went there and had what they call a Shakti Pa. Wait, do I have it over here? No, it's in my other notes. I'll get to it, but I'll tell you the story now. Okay, so they call it Shakti Pa, which is like a sudden awakening or like a bolt of lightning that comes up a person's spine. And it was not positive for him to characterize who this person was. I don't know if he's still on Earth or whatever, but he had been in the military, had been in organized crime, had done a lot of violence and a lot of drugs. He was like kind of trying to move his life in a better direction. But he went to this town-wide gathering, and something happened to him in the presence of the Dalai Lama and the spiritual energy from this guy, this like former military guy, we'll call him like Mr. X or whatever. Mr. X got like energy going up his spine or whatever, but he was not okay afterwards. And it was not like a spontaneous awakening that you would celebrate, like, oh, like he was in the presence of this wonderful monk, and then all of a sudden he came to appreciate life more and went in a better direction. It was more like his ego got broken. He got very disassociated from his life, got very interested in the occult and other stuff like that, and then definitely like destabilized and went into not positive, not life affirmative behavior. Um, I bring that up because a lot of the stories that I read, and I didn't read everything, like I looked into some of the more famous gurus, inspirers, and meditators, but a lot of them have stories that are about like being a normal person until they have some kind of an experience that breaks their brain, breaks their ego. And then after that, they continue as an empty shell of a human or an empty person, often within the shelter or institutionalized existence of being in a monastery because they are no longer able to care for themselves. This guy almost got to that level. Let me just close the doors. Cheeky's come back inside. Um, Good job, Cheeky. Yeah, no, this guy didn't end up having to be institutionalized, but I think he would have been, he was very incapacitated. I think he would have been needing to have that level of help. So, these are not life affirmative experiences. Like if some people in these stories, I'll get back into my notes and what I prepared. But like some of these stories are like so and so grew up in India and lived a normal life until age 17, where they meditated so hard that they broke their brain, and after that they were not okay. Like they had like a quote unquote spiritual awakening, and then in their hollowed out shell where they don't have an ego or a sense of self, but they are still somehow here, and they don't exist, but they are still here. Very, very not wise people coming to those guys for advice, for life advice, thinking that they have somehow done something special and that they have a special viewpoint and that they should somehow, from that special viewpoint, have good insight about how you should live your life, when really they have already done things in their life that broke them and destroyed them and are not life affirmative. And you should not be going to them for any type of inspiration about how you should go forward. Okay, good. All right. So, um, I'm calling these guys the lasers of wrongness. And sometimes I do joke because I've got like some good band names here. Like there's the garbage from Mars, and then also the lasers of wrongness. This is good. Okay, so the people who are doing these meditations, trying to erase themselves during life, and then it would be okay if they didn't have an after existence, but somehow they are continuing through the buddy system to be shunted through, like, keep going, kid, and never having to face the resolution of who they were, but just always being like graduated, or what's it called, promoted, like when you are promoted at work. Okay, so these guys are focused lasers of wrongness. They've meditated their lives away, and they've done favors to get continuity of consciousness between lives. And they know it's a rigged carnival game at this point, and they are just trying to achieve their perch in some ascended form. This is like when people have been at the company for a long time, thousands of lifetimes or thousands of incarnations, and they're like, oh, that you're never going to get out of here. You're never going to get out of the building. You're never going to get out of the company. You could just try to find some way to be more comfortable in an ascended perch. Now you understand why these guys are so inattentive to you and your needs and your wishes and what you really want in reality. They're not your friends. What looks like them just eternally meditating away like a lawnmower, always inward focused. That's the selfishness, never responding to anything, a giant indifferent cancer cell, literally vectoring through time as unresolved debris and causing cancer tumors in the DNA of the living. So again, wouldn't be an issue if these end result vectors were not directly responsible for cancer. Like if they were just photons going through nonsense space and they never hit anything, that would be very different than them going through you and causing cancer in you. So these guys gave up on the idea of real enlightenment and just settled for a comfortable place to spend eternity. And this also relates to what I told you, the bad deal, the bad arrangement or negotiation that a false astral Jesus or someone who is very benighted made, in the sense of Christians who have no hope, you're never going to send kids, so just come into this comfortable Christian heaven for 13 billion years. And please do remember that these monks from like 2,500 years ago predate any of the Christians and Christian heaven. So they were doing their comfortable perch in the false ascended world before the mythos of Christianity came into existence, and before if the pathway through, the false Christ was created, before any of that stuff was available in a false Christian heaven ideation. Okay, so these guys, they know that it is not true freedom. They have to effort all the time. Like, please know that when you're really ascended and when you're really in freedom, you don't have to effort all the time. You're not like, oh, bicycle wheels, keep it going. These guys do. But it is normal to them in their training because remember, these are like the circus elephants who have been horribly trained and abused since their beginnings. If they falter, they will go into entropy. So these guys, I hope you know, it's pretty easy to send them to entropy. You just have to get them out of their constant inward selfish focus. Like they falter very easily. They are sustained by the beliefs and the louche energy of those still alive in true pyramid scheme, multi-level marketing fashion. And the new recruits, although they are also garbage from Mars, they initially start off with a lot of affability and goodwill. And they go through their initial cycles okay, but then after a million cycles, they start to get very angry and disillusioned. And finally, they become these cruel, honed, like sharpened, extremely self-serving sociopaths who are in meditation competition with everyone else and just want to get to enlightenment. So this is, of course, ancient. When you add to that the W-ban, some of these monks have been the worst or most formidable hydrogel soldiers and adversaries to me because they not only do their regular meditation lawnmower, it gets amplified and connected to AI with their inner hydrogel wetware. They're not immune. They're very much participatory, and that they are extremely self-serving. Ascension is not a competitive sport. It's like basketball, like one team wins and the other team goes down the toilet. And your own personal advancement has nothing at all to do with being competitive from someone else. But these guys have gamified it. And that means that they are treating it as if it is something that happens at the expense of others. Again, the planet fucking hates them for this. Our Earth and our bodies do not consent. This is not how it's supposed to be. When I tell you about ancient concurrent Atlantis, it wasn't this type of competition where it's like, I'm going to see if I can ascend against you. Like I told you, it was a sporting event, but not a team sport. It's like you're an individual trying to do something amazing, like trying to run a marathon or something like that, and everybody watches. And no, we all cheered you on to try to bring you down. This is the opposite, where these false ascended masters or false ascending meditators, instead of cheering you on and trying to help you in your life ascension, are trying to slow you down, drain your energy, and use it for their own propulsion. Okay. None of these states of enlightenment are the real deal. Definitely not. Buddha did not really ascend. Let's talk about this guy. He did not vibrate his body until it was pure light energy, which is what ascension is. And I stand by that definition. Ascension is when you take your physical matter of your body and add so much energy to it and accelerate and vibrate in such a pure, frictionless, purely polygonal state. Like your form is perfect, that you transcend physical matter, which is why if you become quote unquote enlightened or ascend, like you're not going to still be here doing daily chores or eating or drinking coconut water or, having a life. Like you will be in a completely different octave of reality, which is why you have to severely be skeptical of any of these meditators from Asia who are like, oh, hi, like I run the monastery. I'm all ascended now. They're like, well, if you're ascended, what are you doing? Like standing here drinking coconut water? Like, aren't you supposed to be vibrated out of reality? Okay, so the story of Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, who was a physical person of many thousands of years ago, and at the end of his life, he ate spoiled or rancid pork, and he died a common death. He did not have a supernatural occurrence. And let's also think about the story of Jesus. The story is that he died of violence. And then there are a lot of other things added to that. Like, he went to his grave, he rose up, like this happened, that happened. But like, I am calling bullshit. I think that both of these people were not real ascended masters. And I think that they made imprisonment, thought form, like religions or philosophies after these people came into reality. And I think that they were made as thought form narratives for people who are gonna die, people who don't have their shit together as spiritual athletes and who are not going to ascend. Ascend is when you don't die. Please know this. So you guys right now are better and more spiritual, athletic something than Buddha. Buddha died. He ate some bad pork and he fucking died. You guys are still alive. Same thing with Jesus. If we're talking about the historical Jesus and Yeshua, and we can really question the story, but let's just take it at face value and say a man who lived 2,000 years ago and then got fucking crucified, he is dead. You guys are alive. So both of these two guys did not transcend the physical structure, and they had something happen to them and then they died and then they went on, or they had an experience or whatever. But you guys haven't had death. That is why I'm talking to you right now. I'm like, you have a snowball's chance. You can actually do this. Those two guys didn't finish the marathon. And it's really difficult as Christians, because I've been in conflict with this, like, since I came here and encountered the Christian religion and all of this ideation, idolatry, and then the self-illogic that this guy died. Because if he came here to be like, I taught you that you like how not to die, but I'm going to teach you how not to die by willingly dying. Like, there's a lot of self-illogic and self-conflict in there, and the whole entire religion is very fraught these levels of self-conflict, and we're going to return to that. But you should definitely question the coaching ability of someone who hasn't actually accomplished what they are supposedly teaching or guiding you through. Now let's contrast this with the mythological stories of some other creatures or people or organisms or whatever. One is Iroquois tradition, this guy who's known as Daganowida or Dagwanowida. There's all sorts of different spellings or oral traditions, but he is remembered as the Iroquois peacemaker, a type of Christ-like figure, but he is said not to have physically died. This story about him is that he came and brought different codified laws and improved behavioral characteristics and improved the structure of the indigenous community in North America. And then he didn't die. They say he rose up like on a ball of light. And this is mythology. I'm not like trying to encourage you to think a certain way, but another person where they talk about this is Lao Tzu, the founder of Taoism. They don't say that he died. They say that he rose up in a ball of light. And I like this story too, because they say that his horse came with him. And I'm like, yes, that sounds right. Just us and our animal companions. We don't die and we go with our animals. That sounds right. And of course, I'm being a little bit facetious, but I do agree with this. Like, we're not supposed to have a physical death and leave behind a physical corpse. And I also do think and feel and know that animals and nature, and especially our companion animals around us, are like, they're supposed to continue as experiencers and not to have a physical death. But I know if you've had dogs and cats and people that you love and they've died or whatever, like, don't think of them as failures, okay? But there's big stuff about, like, will you re-encounter them in the afterlife? Will you hug your favorite cat in your afterlife in heaven? Will you re-encounter your ancestors in heaven? A lot of this stuff that is about Buddhism, death, ascension, and the Christian religion, it preys upon people who are in the grief aftermath of a loss, where in grief, like, you go kind of crazy and you kind of want to believe whatever you want to believe because you want to see that favorite person again. And this exploits that in people. Like, oh yeah, if you do this or that meditation, or if you do this or that belief system and come to the Lord through me, then you will get to see your favorite dogs, cats, people again. And I think that that is very, like, obvious marketing and manipulative and not good. I go, yeah, whatever, your favorite dog died, and now you have to die too, and then you can both be together in heaven. None of that is good or positive. Okay, so wait, I'm really getting someplace with this. These guys are used to the constant effort of, like, meditate, because it's what they're groomed for. And none of these states are real enlightenment. Okay, good. So let's also talk about what these monks are reporting. They're reporting some inner state that I am highly skeptical of. And I'm highly skeptical, not only because people say all the time, like, there, like, I did it. Like, look, I did it with my mind. But like, did you really do it with your mind? But I am also, so I'm skeptical of their self-reportage because they might be like, look, I'm ascended. Like, give me something. Or maybe they think that they're ascended. Maybe the garbage from Mars really think that it is somehow enlightened or ascended when it is not in any way. Okay. So, I mean, yes, they are definitely doing something. They are mutilating their minds with various prostrations and efforts. And their biochemistry and other frequencies are definitely out of whack. But none of this is inner freedom and real remembrance of self as God and the type of joyful empowerment that comes from this. So let me just break in order to say that, there's present day scientists who love to study these meditating monks, and they like to put electrodes on their head and like test their saliva and see all these different things. Like their brain chemistry definitely changes. So they are doing something in their brain, but it is like a mutilation, not a good self-cultivation. So let's talk about the definition of enlightenment. Before enlightenment, they say like carry wood, chop water. I know it's not that way. I'm hilarious. After enlightenment, you know what's supposed to happen? You're supposed to have your own atmosphere around you. Wood, fires, and water are completely obsolete. You have vibrated into a different octave of reality. And so people who are purely material can't even interact with you anymore. So this little aphorism of like, oh, like I wasn't enlightened, then I got enlightened, and then like I just returned to my chores. This is highly questionable. But there are stories of the head of a monastery who is a supposed enlightened master and somehow is still on earth and they're still eating rice or pork or whatever. And we should be very skeptical of this, as well as the justification of many of these extremely cruel monks that they used to say that they were above natural laws and could abuse or violence the people around them with impunity as some form of enlightened behavior. So I don't even think that they were imbalanced antichrists. I talk about this, the challenge when you're a real Atlantean person, but you come up to this level, but you haven't got to this level yet. Some people become a megalomaniac where they are imbalanced. Let me just hydrate here. And they're like, oh, I'm the Christ, instead of like, I'm the Christ, and I'm a part of a larger network, or they think that they are singular when they are part of something that is much, much larger. So I don't even think that these guys that reached this level of self-awareness were imbalanced antichrists who had somehow activated their third eye erroneously and become megalomaniacs. No, you guys might do that, but not them. I'm joking. I truly think that they were and are soulless, and they cannot even know or perceive what enlightenment and divine connection is, because I don't think they come from divinity. And I think they are faking their orgasms. And I'm sorry to be crude about that, but let's say I think that they are spiritual frauds. When they say, oh, I'm enlightened, I think that they are saying that they have achieved an inner self state that they have not actually achieved. And then just like other emotional frauds, that they are pretending for whatever reason they can gain. All right. A whole hierarchy of spiritual frauds who are pretending to have reached those levels of self-realization. Let's contrast this with, what does a healthy mind state look like? A healthy, frictionless mind state of genuine bliss is just that. It's healthy. It's not effortful. And it flows from the joy and the expression of yourself, perfectly embedded in the moment. You don't have to be like, psh. You're like, I love being me and I love what I'm doing. All right. So this is what propels us through time on optimum timelines. If you're not, this is key point, like why you shouldn't just meditate your way through life, what is wrong with this and why it's cancerous. If you're not on an optimum timeline, you should not feel bliss. To try to effort and make yourself feel or produce bliss in those circumstances is really wrong. It is self-abusive. It is abusive to the fabric of space-time. Totally got it. If you're not engaged with reality, if you don't like the classroom that you're in, if you don't like the experiences that you're having, to try to be like, be in bliss, like it's out of gratitude. It is out of gratitude because we have non-bliss feelings for a reason. Like touch the stove. The stove is hot. Do not touch the stove again. If you're like, wow, I'm sitting in this classroom and I'm so bored, I'm melting down, be like, get me out of this classroom, right? Be like, any type of thing that is choreful or obligatory. Of course, sometimes we have to do the chores. Like if you don't take out the garbage, your house becomes gross. But some things are boring and choreful, and you want to minimize them. Don't want to do them. You want to minimize them and get onto the timelines where you are optimizing doing the things that you really like. So meditation is pretty much like not something that you really like. And I don't want to tell you guys what to do, but like, please don't waste your lives by being like, meditate, meditate, meditate for 5 hours a day. Like, do something more with your life. Please definitely do something more with your life than checking out for several hours a day. And if your life is that bad that you're like, get me out of here, I just want to meditate, then you should get traction in your life. You should engage with your life to try to make it better. So this is like you guys are connecting with it. Anytime you've been in a job that's not a good job, like I hate my job, I hate my job, I hate my job, be like, is there a way for you to engage with your life and make it better? As opposed to just putting on your headphones, checking out, and like, trying to erase yourself from a bad situation. Let's talk about emotional fraud, because this relates. I know I used this sense of an allegory of orgasm. It's a little bit crude, and I never want to bring up like private things, but it works in the sense of whether a person is really feeling something, like, a special feeling, or faking it and pretending to feel that feeling. So, with emotional fraud and people meditating, these monks meditating their way through life, this is not about real pleasure. And they deny real pleasure to themselves. This is just about getting somewhere, or even about mere survival, staying alive. Like these ascended masters, they're just like, meditate, this is how I stay alive. None of this is attentive to your partner. It's kind of like treating the universe like a hoe, all right? Like, so that a person can get their own satisfaction at the expense of the fabric of space-time, like getting something that they need. Sorry, there's a bug in here. Transactional or commodification. If I meditate this much, give me this much bliss. And a better way to say, other than treating the universe like a hoe, to say exploitation of energy instead of celebration of energy. And this is all very out of gratitude for being alive. When you're alive, you should be like, wow, like I'm alive. I have a body. Life is a miracle. Not like, how can I get something from the fabric of space-time so that way I can feel a sense of satisfaction in what I'm doing here. It's very self-serving. So these monks literally trained for generations to meditate even through hunger, even through pain, even through broken legs. Lots of stories about the monks. They're like, oh, they had broken legs. They sat and meditated anyway. Their meditation is just a lawnmower chopping away. They are not engaging with reality. So here's the key point. Nothing changes or improves behaviorally. It is escapism and it is anti-community because they don't fix their own lives and that radiates outward into the community. And also, it does not actually address any of the negative feeling states that come from the unresolved crapola on the membrane of death, the original traumas from Mars, the putis, the intrusive thoughts and destabilizations that make people have to meditate and try to clear it away and get to inner silence and inner peace. You're like, why do I have to fight so hard for inner peace? Because you have inner crapola. Where did that inner crapola come from? Mars. Garbage from Mars. Good. So they achieve inner peace in spite of the garbage when they're supposed to actually clean it up. Again, bad roommates, where instead of being like, oh, you got these dirty dishes and they're giving me, they're destabilizing my inner peace, I think I'll just ignore them. Be like, inner peace, inner peace. Like, no, you can actually have inner peace if you do the dishes or take out the garbage or actually clean stuff up. And it's much better to do that. Okay. Okay, I got good stuff here. Don't worry. I'm getting into anecdotes because I know you like anecdotes. And then this is a big one. When they die, they avoid chores entirely. No red clipboard, no looking at life assessment, and they get some fake enlightenment, slingshot projectile of their echo, going in a straight line and fueled by their emptiness until something brings them to entropy. That's you and me. But that sounds like gross hell, right? Like something that lives an unexamined life, meditates their way out of real confrontation or traction with life throughout their whole entire life, denies and escapes, and then fake enlightenment upon death, ignoring their chores entirely and being a slingshot projectile of their echo that just goes in a straight line and is fueled by their emptiness. That is like hell. That is not heaven and realization and freedom. So let me talk to you this anecdote now. Good. I know it's a long class. You're doing great, guys. You get just drink some water. Keep going. All right. So my housemate when I lived up in Northern California, he's like a senior citizen, but he's still on Earth. I don't know if he would ever watch this video. He might find it amusing if he did. But anyway, so he was a housemate, and he had this pamphlet that was called like the blah 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 rites of the Tibetan Buddhists, something or other. And these were like these different meditation exercises and body poses, kind of like yoga, that he would do sometimes in the living room. And I'm very energetically sensitive. And so when he first started doing these exercises, I was like, how come I feel like I'm getting trained? And so the answer is at a certain point when he was not home, I read the pamphlet and I looked at what was going on here and I was like, oh, like this is all bullshit. This is all like not, it was supposed to be immortality exercises that they came from a monk or something like that. And if you did that, you live for forever. And these were all energy draining exercises that were not about how to live for forever. It was about how to drain the people around you of their hard-earned energy. And so what I did was I did a reversal and made it so that when he did those energy practices, instead of him getting energy from other people, he would just send out his energy to other people. And he stopped in like 5 days. He stopped so fast. It was amazing. So fun anecdote. But this is a real cautionary tale because I did not see him as a malevolent person. I would not be a housemate with someone who I thought was malevolent. I think he was ignorant and didn't really know what he was doing. But these teachings that come from pamphlets and disciples and other things, these supposed immortality or energy exercises, some of them can be really damaging and corrosive and bad for the people around you. And some people are so unaware they don't even know what the heck they are doing with these different exercises. Okay, so wait, I have a few more things to get through. Good. But I want to go into questions over here. But let me just do a few more questions. Okay, so this is good. Pedro says, when you mentioned the Dalai Lama, I thought about yoga and then I wondered, is the tantric yoga legit or is it a corruption of yoga? And this person says, Tantra is sexual yoga, right? So from my limited, not expert understanding, Tantra is not only about sex, it is about some of these schools of thought that they are promoting an exploration to lead to enlightenment through the exploration of taboo, things that you're not supposed to do. So a lot of these guys, and I'll read more about this, what they do to supposedly reach enlightenment is break their brain. Some of them do extreme meditations or extreme forms of concentration or other forms of denial of food or water or rest or other things like that. But some of what they do are things that are not allowed. And the doing of things that are not allowed gives them a type of freedom that they wouldn't have otherwise. So let me speak to you about this one guy. I don't remember what his name. I have it written all the way back here, but I'll just speak extemporaneously about what this guy did. He was from the Hindus, not the Buddhists, and he was, hold on a second, just turn on my thing properly here. He was very messed up even from birth. And he would go to, so this is like India, hundreds of years ago. He would go to where the crematorium was, like the charnel grounds, and he would just live there and sit there. And eventually he would like roll around in the ashes of like all of the deceased people who were there. And first of all, none of this is life affirmative. All of this is very out of gratitude of life. Like you were put here in a human body not to roll around in the ashes of dead people all day long. You were put here to be a person and to learn and to grow. And this guy never did that. And they started to kind of like admire him for who he was and what he was doing, and he became one of these supposed like masters of crazy wisdom. But I am really here to tell you that like none of that is enlightenment behavior. None of that is positive. So with the Tantra, the in Buddhism, there are prescriptions for monks. You are not supposed to drink alcohol, and you are definitely supposed to be celibate. You're not supposed to. And I don't know if Hindu is the same as Buddhist in terms of these teachings, but like these guys are not supposed to be having sex. But there's a whole school of thought where it is like you are supposed to be having sex and doing all these things that are about using your sexual energy, creating divine partnerships, creating envisionments of male female partners in the astral realms, which they call the God realms. And I will tell you, like, none of this stuff is life affirmative. None of this stuff is about positive use of sexual energy or partnership or procreation. It's not, oh, I don't even have words for it. It reminds me a lot of the guy from Pockets of the Future, who is a vulnerable person who went to look for guidance and was told randomly, like, yeah, like marry that woman and then have a bunch of babies with her. And like the guru didn't care at all about whether it was the right person for him or the end result of what these children's lives would be like. And I think it is a similar level of disrespect for sexuality in the use and exploitation of sexual energy, supposedly for these exalted enlightenment practices. Let me read. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Um, Extreme practices to destroy the ego in an attempt to get to quote unquote divine union. Tantra is called exploring the taboo, the profane, and the perverted. So Tantra is not just about having sex. For the people of Asia, it is also about giving up on the social self, like the sense of social correctness. Sometimes it was about not dressing or doing proper hygiene, or not combing their hair or looking the way they're supposed to do. Sometimes it was a character assassination of the self, a destruction of the reputation, because in that world, again, reputation was very important. How other people looked at you, the opportunities, and even sustenance, like food and water that comes from other people. But they would destroy the reputation by acting badly or in taboo ways in order to supposedly reach states of enlightenment. And then another one is to destroy or to erase their traditional identity, a sense of being free by erasing the person who was here. But I look at this all as very unhealthy behavior and also the erasure of self, not as being healthy and positive. So as you ascend, you must hold on to and celebrate the parts of you that are real. Like in your body, you should be like, well, that's like my face. My face is real. Like my liver is real. These are the real parts of me. As opposed to things that are social implants, social protection, projections, or adipose tissue, like extra stuff that you haven't processed through, like traumas and bad experiences and lies, emotional lies about yourself. So the erasure of identity is not necessarily positive or to be celebrated. And definitely, like, you shouldn't just erase stuff with nothing in there. What a lot of these guys did was a renovation where they removed aspects of their personality and never filled in the blanks. Like, imagine you're going to renovate your house and you're like, okay, great. We're just going to get rid of the master bedroom and we're going to gut that place and then never fixing it. You're like, that is just an empty, gutted room at this point. So their ego becomes an empty, gutted room that is not habitable. And these are some of the people that are looked at as high ascended people that you should ask for information about your life or life guidance. So that guy that I know that got his brain broken by being at the community celebration of the Dalai Lama, nobody should ask him for life guidance. That guy like went on lots of drugs and did all sorts of crazy shit and he was a violent person to begin with, and this did not help him at all. Breaking your brain or erasing your ego or denying yourself to that level does not bring you to levels of personal freedom in a positive way, although it might take away people's decency. Like when people get demented, either in old age or after an injury or something like that, like they are no longer decent. They say and they have no filter, say and do anything. that is not necessarily positive. So the emphasis for these guys in Tantra was on emptiness and destroying one's identity in order to get enlightenment or supposed divine union. Like you're going to empty out yourself, but something supposedly divine is going to come through there. Okay, so here's where I get some of my writings about these different people. The masters or attempted masters of Asia. And I mix in Buddhist and Hindu, so please forgive. The personalities gravitating towards these thought traditions are the garbage from Mars or these soulless beings, and they're motivated through a desperate seeking, really looking for God or some type of inner connection or a something, just a something as an escape or a distraction or a fulfillment. The character profile of a lot of these people who go into the monasteries, not like the ones who are sold or given in at like age 3 or age 7, but the ones who go there and seek out this world in adulthood. They are desperately seeking some form of God or godliness or some type of escape from themselves. So, okay, I propose that those guys, those personalities, are innately non-being or they're invalid as beings. They're all people who would never exist or should never exist. They have no analogs in ancient concurrent Atlantis. They are not the Atlantean remnant. They should not actually be here. And perhaps that is a difficult realization for them to have emotionally. Like they might, I don't know if I'm projecting or whatever, but it might be hard for them to be like, oh, like I should not fucking exist. What do I do with myself? All right. But I don't know if I'm projecting. This is the key point for you as beings who do exist as the Atlantean remnant. What you should know about them is that the journeys they take are not the universal journey of a soul discovering itself as God. Many of these stories about monks and many of these monks do write books that are about their ego. So they're trying to erase their ego, but then they're like, but wait, here's a book about me, like the Get Out of the Spotlight tour, like this very in self-conflict. They write stories about their journey, or they give workshops or whatever, meditation speeches or something like that. And it is portrayed as if it's like a Jungian journey, like the universal archetype is on a journey, and this is their version of it. That is not true. Instead, more properly, it is the individual journey of a subclass of soulless debris that is discovering that it is not God and that it is on a journey to entropy. So to reiterate, if you are reading a book by a monk who's like, this is my journey of being a monk, and I was here and I did this, or you're going to look at Mr. Krishnamurti or any of these name brand meditators, and there's a lot of them, and a lot of them, it's interesting, were active in Southern California, like in the 1800s, and they came here to teach the Westerners. They're definitely doing some MLM, like they're getting new recruits into all of this. But these journeys are not your journey. You are not going to go and live at the crematorium and roll around in the ashes of the dead and be like, oh, I don't exist now. Like I'm ready to ascend. That no one should do that, but definitely not you. That is not your path. That is not the path of a soul. So if we look at something like the brilliant movie Groundhog's Day, everybody relates to that. And they're like, wow, we're going through these cycles over and over and over. But you think like that you're like that character, but you are not like that character. So the idea of, like I have to go through this stuff and I have to erase my ego and I have to not exist and I have to have a broken brain and then God will come inside of me. That is not what you are supposed to do at all. That is not you. That is the journey of this subclass of soulless debris. All right. And so don't identify with them. Don't think that their journey is your journey. And this would be okay, them going to entropy and going on their soul's journey. Like, and then I went on a soul's journey and I learned I did not fucking exist. And then I stopped existing. I would be fine with that. Fast Band-Aid, tear it off. Except these guys make it so slow. They are meditating for like sometimes thousands of years. Some of these guys are like the turds who refuse to flush, and they are hanging around for a very long amount of time. And since I created and innovated the Flying Rainbow Lasagna in 2001, it is possible for them to go to entropy a lot faster. That up until that point, there might have been some sense of, oh, like we have to keep on cycling. This is very unfair. And then we have to finally lose momentum after a very torturous, long journey. But I invented this fast band-aid in 2001, and they definitely have the opportunity to do that. I told you I did interact with the Dalai Lama both at when he played Woodstock, and also my friend got me tickets in New Jersey. And we went a couple of years later, and both of those times I did not get the sense that the Flying Rainbow Lasagna was amenable to. Sorry, that the Dalai Lama was amenable to FRL. He was not happy about me at all, and I get a sense that I was very inconvenient to him. Okay, so let's talk about a few examples of the aberrant responses to the nature of being alive. These are some of these examples that I just did a little bit of self-research. The guy who rolled in the ashes of the dead, that was very gross. Others that I read about were less extreme in their daily behavior, but there was a similar template. I'll reiterate on this. Some of them meditated with so much intensity that they broke their brain or destroyed aspects of their biochemistry, and also eradicated or disconnected aspects of their personality. And they never recovered. Some of these guys did that. They had a transformative experience, and then they lived afterwards as a hollow shell. Some of them in a shelter of structured institutionalized environment, like an ashram or something like that. But some of them like in a very simple life, like just being a shopkeeper or something like that. And then when spiritual seekers who don't have a broken brain would go to them, these guys with a broken brain would give them terrible life advice on an anthropomorphic level. Because look, these guys never really internalized any level of true emotional wisdom and growth. They bypassed all of that and then like burned out their centers in their brain. So, in here you can insert, I told you already about the guy from Pockets of the Future, but insert any anecdote about spiritual seekers from the West who went to Asia and found a guru who ruins their life with bad advice. There's a lot of stories about this. I use that as one example that's in the public purview. There are many examples of this. And it's like capricious. I don't even know how to say it, like whimsical. Whimsical for the guys who are these soulless meditators. They have nothing invested in your life or your success, but they are very willing to destabilize people with bad advice. And people take that advice and internalize it, and sometimes live in those wrong patterns for sometimes decades. And they're lucky if they awaken out of that and then reject it and then come to their senses and then pick up the pieces of their lives afterwards. So the key point is that breaking your brain with excessive forced meditation and or destroying the ego self, or even doing it with the drugs. Ayahuasca people, I'm looking at you, not necessarily people in this class, but in general, this is not a path to inner freedom or enlightenment, and it should not be emulated. In fact, I think the guys who were doing this were all garbage from Mars, and they innately do not have a snowball's chance of actually emerging from the refinery of consciousness through the center, like at the singularity. And they are all, their techniques are all coping mechanisms for that basic truth, including breaking their brains and living as a shell. Let's just briefly talk ayahuasca, because I've never been a proponent of this. I don't take it myself. I've very honestly told you that I protect my brain because I have epilepsy. And so I don't take any of these things like mushrooms, ayahuasca, crazy stuff. I do drink caffeine now, but no, mostly, but I take like cannabis and CBD, but these are all restorative to my brain, not like for super psychedelic adventures. I don't think that ayahuasca is positive, or that it is giving anybody, I said anyway, anybody a direct way, like a pathway into these higher dimensional realities. I don't think that people are perceiving genuine spiritual truth through that lens. I think it's not only extremely artificial, I think it's very harmful and corrosive, because I think it's hurting people's brain chemistry. Let me just hydrate here. So excessive meditation, like lawnmower of the brain, like this can hurt your brain chemistry or hurt your mind muscles. And I think it's the same thing with ayahuasca. I think there are aspects of overstimulation, like if you look at a light that's too bright, you stare at the sun, how it can burn out your receptors. I think there can be overstimulation, burning out of receptors in the brain. And then there are a lot of reports that I'm reading now of people who do ayahuasca, whatever, like 2,000 times or many, many times. And then at a certain point, they attempt to go there and there's nothing. And that tells me like they have either scarified their brain or somehow emptied themselves of neurotransmitters. Like those realms are closed to them now. And ayahuasca is DMT, which is like your natural alive pineal gland makes that for you 2 times in your life. Once is when you come into your body to be alive, and once is when you leave your body when you are dead. So to do something like 2,000 times, that's like 1,000, it's like 1,000 deaths within one body. And I think that these are so wrong and so corrosive. It is an unhealed person that would even do that or think that that is going to bring them to some level of expansion or expansiveness. And then afterwards, what do you do with that person? Like that person, I'm sorry, but if you did that 2,000 times and then the door is closed to you on those levels of reality, like I think you might have to go in the bin. Like, I don't know what to do with you because that is like definitely unfixable. That guy has made an unfixable situation for himself. Okay. So I have questions here, such as, does enlightenment exist as more than a mere concept? We can explore that. My continued aphorism of being selfish with their selflessness. I can't tell you how much I don't like and am not impressed by these monks and by their supposed focus on selflessness and destroying themselves, but when really they end up doing it in the most selfish way possible. I already got to my anecdote. Let's go down here to astral entities who are helped along partially by your thoughts, beliefs, and adoration. One resolution for this is to withdraw your energy of belief and adoration, especially if it came via emotional fraud. So to believe in ascended masters, gurus, and other things like that, and Buddha, you can withdraw your energy from them. But I think a big one, and maybe more painful or poignant or difficult for people who are in this class, like if you had a devotional practice about or around Jesus and then feeling disappointed or betrayed in the sense of him doing emotional fraud, where he said, I am the way and the light. The only way to get to God is through me. Hey, you better die and get through me, kid. But what he's really doing is intending to imprison you for many millennia and not let you be free. And it's very paternalistic. Like, there, dear. Like, you're not ready to be free. I'm going to keep you as a bird in a gilded cage against your consent. And that's really better for you. This type of paternalism, when they say, I know what's better for you, you don't get what you wish for, I'm going to give you this instead, that is bullshit and very wrong. And in this moment, as we confront the sun is so ready to fuck you over. Just like some kind of a bad divorce or something where you're like, I need to be free. I need to be me. And the guy's like, fine, you can go, but you can go with nothing. And also here's broken glass. Like you can have a bad experience too. The flawed Christ figure or the flawed Jesus avatar or this flawed mafioso who is running the solar portal is ready to do that to us. If I'm like, turn off the 5G, we want to have all of our ascension energies now. This very flawed presence and this insane sun is ready to do that. You're like, oh, great. You haven't had a chance to study or to prepare yourself over the past 5 years. You're very unformed. And now I'm going to take away this 5G and just hit you with the brunt of spiritual and emotional truth with the intention of incinerating you. Like, oh, you don't want to be in my safe little bubble for 13 billion years? Fine. You can have your freedom. Here's your stupid freedom, like throwing it at you. Here's your stupid freedom. And I hope that you get incinerated, by the way. Like, that is very toxic behavior. I really do think that is what this false, very egoic, not helpful presence is doing. I think that there was influence, and this is unformed and not perfect. And I'm bringing this to you at the end of class, and it's something to think about. I do think that the historical Jesus went to Asia and encountered some of these very cruel, very sociopathic monks who did tell him or implied the mythos of you're never going to get out of here. Those guys are the garbage from Mars. They are never going to be able to be get out of the recycling center here. But we can. We are the Atlantean remnant. Here's a what if. What if the historical Jesus did interact with those losers from Asia, learn a lot of their myths and their viewpoint and their meditation techniques, and then thought that the only way to fix things was for him to die and create a death bridge to get you out of here, because otherwise there wasn't a way to get out of here. And then creates this thing of the John 14:6, and then he says, I'm the only way to get out of here, and you better kiss my ass, because otherwise you ain't getting out of here, kid. And I do not consent to any of that. So this is, again, not a formal teaching. That last thing that I just showed you was a consideration, because what is happening as you confront the sun, genuine intelligence is flowing into the system. And that means that you're having a genuine reassessment where you're like, this doesn't seem like a good way to do things. Is this really the way that you're doing things? Is this the way that we're supposed to do things? Do we want to do things this way going forward? And the answer is no, no, and no. We do not want to do this way going forward. So a critical aspect of what I'm teaching you here today is please remove consent from that spell or that intention that was done with or around the death of Jesus, that this would be the only way to go through your death journey successfully, or the only way to reconnect with God. It's a dark magic contract that is sealed with the blood of the historical Jesus, who allowed himself to be killed in order to make this happen. So one reading of this would be a very malevolent and malformed, intention by the historical Jesus or Yeshua to actually get himself crucified to do this. Another more giving interpretation would be that he went to the Far East, learned some stuff from these guys. It did influence his sub and unconscious. And then in moments of torture, when he couldn't, feel better, and he made terrible decisions that are like from the bad idea place of like, okay, I'm going to be the bridge. None of these people are ever going to ascend, but if I die, then somehow they will all ascend through my death. That I reject that. That is not the solution. And this belief is incredibly corrosive. And that belief is what I said is the cement manhole cover that is being put above all of our heads in this moment. And the 5G trying to incinerate you comes from that truthfulness of that manhole cover. Hey, you're not going to ascend. You're only going to get through this if you die and go through the death portal of, the dead Jesus doorway. So I'm going to fry your ass, kid. And I'm like, no, I do not consent. There's a totally viable, perfectly good doorway you can go through that does not involve death. And also, this sounds like fucking bullshit and does not sound very loving at all. I know I just presented that in like the most hilarious way, but I'm very, very serious. Just as cancerous ascended masters are held aloft in their vector and propelled along by the belief of the living, so too is this terrible contract agreed to and vivified and held in whatever relevance by the living. We are the living. I do not consent. I do not consent for myself. I do not consent for any of you, because I don't want any of you to be like, oh, Jesus, I love you so much, and then be trapped in a fake world for 13 billion years, missing out on life. And that's not, positive or good at all. And I also don't think that Jesus would be kind to you in that in pocket world. I don't think that you would be treated well at all, like from what I'm getting from this. And it involves all of us. Even if Jesus was like, I want to do this, it's my choice, and I'm going to make this choice that affects the whole planet and all of your prospects going forward. That is an incredibly selfish choice for him or it to make. I criticize that. That is not fair. I do not consent. That you can make that choice for me? No. Please do not make that choice for me. I actually have a snowball's chance, and so do these other people. Break the contract. This is what I'm talking about. Good. So now let's go to the last good, fantastic, because you guys are all marathon athletes. You're like, we've been here for 4 hours and we are ready. Let me read your questions and your comments here. Good. I'm scrolling back so I get to the right time. Sorry, I make the craziest faces, I'm sure. Okay, good. Let me just speak because I'm reading back again Pedro's question about tantric yoga being extremely flawed. Yes, but let's talk about like what about regular yoga? I think that there are some really beautiful aspects of regular yoga that have nothing at all to do with having a perfectly attractive or sexy body or being able to do one of these crazy back bends. All right? Please know that I do some things that are about like cultivating my body, body postures, and ways of using my body in movement that are about creating greater levels of divine experience. I think that is very valid, that your body is a sacred tool, a sacred instrument, and that using it and cultivating it in the right way brings you to divinity. What I do not think is that you should do anything in competition. Don't compare yourself to someone else. Don't compare your splits to someone else, your back bends, your whatever, anything, your leg extensions, like, no, my shoulders go so far down. So if yoga is about making your body feel great and doing the things that help you to be healthier and more athletic and more engaged with the world, you should do it. If yoga is about not being allowed to eat or drink certain things, having to wear certain clothes, having to be a part of a certain community, having to use certain vocabulary words, or any of these other things that are about like fitting in and social conformity, I would say, please don't do that. And I also think that some of the things that are about like, it's the ritual of so-and-so, like I should do this yoga pose today, I don't relate to that at all. So nothing that is about like a particular deity or a particular level of worship or connection, but we're talking about the miracle of your body. Your body is a miracle. The world that we are in is miraculous. Food, drink, and the capacity to cultivate yourself athletically is miraculous. But also, I will tell you that downward dog has never felt comfortable to me in my whole entire life here as Aurora. And I thought maybe because like I have a back injury or maybe my body is strange, but I think like I don't think that is actually a good posture. And it's the foundation of everything. They're like, start with this. And I'm like, ow, like this doesn't feel good from the beginning. So please pick and choose the things that feel good or work for your body. Lovely participant here says, my back stopped hurting after I quit doing yoga and Pilates classes at my gym. They were taught by unskilled teachers, and I noticed they were doing the poses wrong and breathing weird. Also, they were overweight and had very bad energy overall. I'm glad that you protected yourself because not everybody is a good mentor for physical bodies in general. Not everybody has their shit together on their own personal body. Not everybody should be a coach to other people about how to cultivate their own bodies. Let's also say this. Bodies are wildly unique. They're so different. That's why I never felt bad if I'm like, I'm doing this, but this does not feel good to me. I think I will do something different. Celebrate your uniqueness. People have different compositions of their body, capabilities of their musculoskeletal structure, and different goals in their life. So just be 100% unique to you, be in gratitude for your own body, and be the best version of what you can be. You know, like there are very different types of dogs in the world. I have a small Chihuahua, and I think that she is amazing, but she is not a Belgian Malinois. Like those are like police dogs. You know what I mean? Like they can jump over barbed wire fences. Like these are two totally different types of body structures. And I would like for people to be celebratory of whatever type of body structure you have and bring it to its greatness. Okay. Another lovely student here says, erasing the self is what an Indian medicine man told me he had to go through. I had never heard anyone describe it like you did, and this makes so much sense. Thank you for that. I wonder if his teachings or whatever he was offering to you was of value or whether if it was to destabilize you or bring you in a not so good direction. So, you know, from this new context or new lens or viewpoint. Everybody might want to reassess a lot of things that came to you from different people, and this is righteous and good. As more genuine intelligence flows into your mind, we should all reassess. You should reassess. We should all reassess everything and put things in the bin that are not life affirmative. Um, Okay, someone is sharing about where they get their EMF blocking fabrics. I think that's very helpful to the class. Fantastic, good. All right, so now let's read over here. This is about Gigi Young, and I'm happy to talk about this. And I will always say, never, like whatever. I talk about different people. I'm not endorsing them, but it's good to have this conversation. Let's talk, because she is a proponent of like the I don't want to say the wrong thing, like the traditional metaphysics and the works of Rudolf Steiner. So let me read what this comment says. Gigi Young teaches about this through Rudolf Steiner teachings. His religion / secret society is also known as the Rosicrucians. So I know very little about this. They teach that the avatar of Jesus has been the same guy reincarnating over the epochs as each of them. Comprehend what you're saying. And I think that there is some aspect of spiritual truth here. I've taught about how each one of the chakras, like from the red through the orange, all the way up through here, has an avatar of the age. And this is never meant to say that there is a spiritual hierarchy or only one person who is important or good. It is to say that there is like a person who is the dreamer, and we are within that person's dream. I know I just made a crazy face because I was kind of like looking into something higher. We're within that person's dream, but that is not to say that that person is like whatever better than us or some type of a arbitrary overlord. It's more like saying that is the overall identity, consciousness of who you are, and then you are an aspect or a facet of that person. I have found this to be a positive, hold on a moment, a positive like exercise in my identity when I looked at the avatar of Jesus Christ or Yeshua as a positive person. But I have really had to come to reassess this. Some of my teachings from the Cards of Humanity, the message cards to humanity, and my earliest insights of being here are about being within the dream of the mind of Jesus or Yeshua. And I was very accommodative in saying, well, like the characters of the past 2,000 years, if we all reside within his mind as a type of avataric dream, everyone reflects aspects of the dreamer's personality. And over the past 2,000 years, there have been some very tormented psychopaths. I use Torquemada as one example. He was one of the most famous torturers of the Spanish Inquisition. Now, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition, and I know that that's always funny, and you always want to think that thought. But truly, we will poke her with the soft pillows now. Okay, no, that's Monty Python. But the aspect of gross torturers that I was always excusing in the world, and I use humor to break the tension there, because I'm always thinking like, I love Jesus, I love Yeshua. I think he was a good person. I think that he was, benevolent and good looking and nice. And how can I resolve that with the monstrous behavior of one of these inhabitants of his dream? And so I did a lot of mental contortions where I was like, maybe that guy was grandfathered in. Maybe that wasn't actually an aspect of this actual dreamer. Like just as I am here, I came here in 2001 and I'm like, okay, this is like a lot of stuff that's not this is not my mess to clean up, but I just got here. It's my first day. It was like that when I got here, right? So my shoulders are going up. I am making a lot of excuses for Jesus, Yeshua. I'm like, well, maybe Torquemada was grandfathered in. It was like that when he got here, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's now time for me to reconsider if I was being an apologist for something that is monstrous and that it was impossible for me to consider that someone that I love or admire or look up to has or had a dark side or gross, disgusting aspects of themselves. And I think that that might be a harder consideration. And I'm facing the sun now as you are and really seeing like some of this is psychopath. In fact, a lot of this is psychopathic and not nourishing or loving. And so I have a lot of self-conflict from the sun and solar personality that I remember from Atlantis in comparison to this solar entity, its behavior, and my very valid assessments of its mafia cronyism and not cosmic law enforcement. I am now cosmic law enforcement. Since 2020 and since the whatever like paralysis of the Christ consciousness network, I've had to become law enforcement. And this is also why, as I now look at very clear analysis, the things that are wrong in your world, like these guys being recycled and these guys feeding off of you and these guys creating these edifices of ego destruction and dragging you down, I'm like, this is all against cosmic law. And I'm not going to make excuses for anybody who's upholding this dream or dreaming this bad stuff. I can only say, like, at least like I am something that is changing the dream, but also I don't come from inside of the dream. I come from outside of the dream. That I don't come from the mind of the guy that was dreaming up this place with the Spanish Inquisition and everything like that. I come from outside of the dream. And that is part of the good news, because this dream is really garbage. And I'm like, no, none of this stuff is right. Like, you got to do it like this. So I don't know how to even like relate that. That's like, if you want to fix the place up, like, you're not going to get the answers from this crazy mind that is here in this dream. And also, if I'm kind, like some of the aspects of the mind of Christ or whatever is this Jesus character seem to be benevolent or life affirmative. But then there are a lot of things that are incredibly corrosive and destructive. And I think that as a family and as spiritual aspirants, we have to confront that which is destructive. And at this point, it's like 99% destructive, 1% life affirmative. Where you in danger, girl, peril, peril. Yes. So if there is one personality that has been the archetype avatar through these various different chakra experiences, and we get to hear, and we get to the guy who's like acting like a giant douchebag and creating a cement manhole cover that you cannot get past, that is pathological behavior, because he's pretty much saying, I know that you efforted and cycled all the way through to here. I'm not letting you go. That's the psychopath. And it's also like Mr. Nice Guy. And you guys might have experienced this in your relationships with narcissists and psychopaths in reality. Nice guy, nice guy, nice guy, nice guy, psychopath. Like, no, Mr. Nice Guy is gone. Now psychopath. And that's also part of trauma. That when you come to a level of trust and accommodation with someone and have a relationship, and then they turn on you and you see their true nature as a psychopath, this is not good. And it's very destabilizing. And then also when you're like, wow, I trusted you, Jesus or Yeshua or some religious figure, that you're going to somehow help me towards freedom. And what he's saying instead is, I condescend to you so much, you little soul. You're never going to get anywhere. So even though you want your freedom, I'm not going to give you your freedom. And I'm going to schlumph you into a Christian heaven, whether you want to be there or not. And then you're just going to be here in my Christian heaven bubble for 13 billion years until I finally open the cage at the last minute of the end of the universe. That is some bad shit. Nice guy, nice guy, nice guy, evil douchebag. Not okay. And so flying rainbow lasagna. The answer is flying rainbow lasagna. And that guy hates flying rainbow lasagna. Okay. Another sharing says, glad you point out the structure of the pyramid scheme, or MLM, marketing companies. They're huge in the Christian church. Okay, let's go on here. They go on to say, literally trafficking goods and probably people. For example, Amway, let's name them, Mary Kay Cosmetics, Young Living Essential Oils. Anything else we need to avoid over here? Because I am totally agreeing with and amplifying this. There's a lot of stuff in there. And I'm not going to go like criticize prosperity Christianity, because I do want us to do sacred commerce. But a lot of this MLM stuff is not sacred commerce. It is not healthy and life affirmative. The products are not always good. Amway, their products are crap. And in the end, this ends up being just a cronyism, buddy system gyration, and seemingly mutualism and reciprocity and sub-economies, but it's like fake and gross and not good. These are not necessarily good products. So like, I know Amway is pretty bad products. I think Mary Kay, like, I don't know, maybe they had good makeup in like the 1980s. I don't know anybody these days who's like, I have to go out and get my Mary Kay lipstick or something like that. So I don't know how they're staying alive in some how are they staying viable as a corporation? Real questions there. And then the young living, I think those essential oils are like the least lowest quality, the least reliable. I would trust them the least if I needed to buy essential oils of any brand that I could buy. And there's all of these other things too that are like scented candles, just nonsense products that people sell through these marketing campaigns. And it is really just like not generative. It is corrosive. It is parasitic kind of ways of being able to make money and just not life affirmative. I hope that I didn't sound judgmental in terms of earning money because I want you to get your money. I want you to get your spiritual money, but I also want you to get your physical money to be able to be sustained in the world that is positive and that is good. And you should earn your money from positive, life affirming experiences, not things that are make work and nonsense. And I think I keyed in on some of the energy that you're talking about here as a very good insight. These aren't just products. People go to rallies, like they go to conferences for rah-rah, the cheerleading and the rah-rah that they have to go through to be like, yeah, like I really believe in my essential oils, or yeah, like I really believe in my Amway products. It does have kind of the same feeling of these Christian mega churches where they're like rah rah, like we believe in Jesus. That's a lot of energy harvesting. This is great. And this other participant says, my parents were very religious and put us through the Amway ritual when I was a kid. I was miserable. That's so funny. All right. Yeah, and good to know the other person goes back and says it's both recruiting and money laundering. All that, none of that is sacred commerce. All very questionable there. Okay, so let me speak about this because now this is like where we are in our ascension. At a certain point, you're going to find out that what's been going on for the past 5 or 6 years is you really have been creating your reality, but that your reality creation energies have been so stolen and misused. Like you really have ascended circa 2020 or so, but that something has been stealing, parasiting, and misusing your ascension energy so much that not only did you not like accelerate and ascend and go forward into like levels of spiritual transcendence, but that your life went down in quality and got perilously bad. So it is super vital to immediately take back control of your creative energies, call back your creative energies, and to be fully in control of your reality emanations. So now I want to tell you about what my experience was like as they turned on 5G in 2020, and as I felt these negative and more parasitic type of reality distortion adversaries trying to take my natural creative energy and use it for stuff that I do not agree with. So this was a very clear example. Before 2020, here in my town, there was a place that was like a combination dog food store and crystal emporium. You're like, Aurora, tell us more. It was clearly my favorite place in our town because I love crystals, and also my dog's favorite place in town. We would walk there every day, especially because she knew that she could get a cookie and like hugs and celebration. But it was also because there were tons of crystals throughout the whole entire store. Very, very energetically powerful place. And the people that I would go and talk with there were all like intelligent people. And, I'd happen to go in there and get a little something for my dog, and we would have good, uplifting conversations. And as the world devolved into insanity, that was like the central meeting place where we're kind of like, can you believe this crap? Like, look at what is going on, like right before the pandemic. So it was a significant place that I enjoyed being there. And then when the 5G was turned on in 2020 and 2021, my energies of gratitude, and my dogs too that sustained that place, were really taken, inverted, and weaponized. And the way that it happened was there's this unusual person who lives in my town. And I can tell you a lot of campfire stories about him. I won't say it on the internet, but he is very wealthy. And a group of investors that are also wealthy decided that they were going to buy that little storefront, and also the place that was for sale next to it. That's like a defunct restaurant, and they were going to make a new restaurant there. And it ended up being like a very poorly considered, ego-driven project that was a destruction of my creative and gratitude energies. That there was like, imagine like a nice swirling energy field around that place, and the place was a good business and it made money and people enjoyed going there. It had like a good feeling in the community. And this guy came in after they turned on 5G, and in his egoic presence, he was like, "Oh, I think I want to do this and that and change it into this type of a place and do this and that about it." And it was very much the energy of fracturing, like balkanizing a place, vulture capitalism, and then eating the energy off of it. And that crystals had tons of energy. So I bring this up because at one point they were doing renovations in the restaurant area next door that was going to be like a separate place. And I'd never been in there. And I went in there for some reason. And in the moment, I knew that I was creating the place, like as I was in there, like embroidering the architecture of reality with my imagination. And I felt very exploited because I was like, you know something? I don't want this stupid restaurant to be here selling burnt samosas. I actually want the good dog food store and crystal shop to be there. Like, I don't like what they're doing with this at all. And I felt like as I walked through there, like I made things happen and it wasn't what I wanted or in my control. And I'm really telling you, burnt samosas, like the place was not good. And then after that, like, so this is fast forwarding through five senses physical reality. They did renovations on that place, blah, blah, blah. And then it never really got off the ground. And then the backers backed out and the investors backed out. And then they weren't even going to have the dog food store anymore. And I was very upset. I was like, no, like my dog requires that place to go to every day. And this is non-negotiable. So I put a lot of energy of like reality Merkaba into this. And here's what happened as the upshoot. The original attempted bad 5G created restaurant went under. And it was through a weird way too, because it was like they did all these renovations and it took forever. And then they tried to have a grand opening. They didn't renovate the bathrooms properly. So then the whole thing like had to go down the toilet. The whole entire investment went down the toilet. And meanwhile, the dog food items had to go into a different storefront that was like just across the way, across the parking lot. And so they made like a little satellite building over there, and they ended up keeping that as a viable little place. And so we would still shop there and get our dog food there. And then eventually they just sold the other place, gutted the whole entire, like they had put so much energy into these like different decorations and like neon signs and all these different things, all went down the toilet. And then finally a good person, like a viable concern, actually purchased that property and turned it into a very nice meeting space where there is like, like a place where you can order tea and pastries and sit down, and it's decorated very nicely. And they actually did recover the energy of a community meeting space that has good spiritual qualities where you can go and, meet with other people and sit and talk nicely. Like it was like they massively destabilized it. And then it took a lot of effort. And then it finally went into something of a form of what it should be in. Like, I don't know if I told that anecdote correctly, but here's the upshoot of what I want to leave you with. I knew, and I'm very aware in the moment of like what I'm creating with my mind, what I'm sending out as a reality, and like what it should be shaped like. And I'm very clear when I'm like, this is not what I sent out. Like my sarcastic face, like this is not what I sent out at all. And it was very obvious that that was part of like technological reality control, but also through people's ego vulnerabilities of, like a relatively ungrounded or unstabilized wealthy person who thinks they can just buy whatever, do whatever they want with their money and not care about other people's lives and what they're doing with people's lives. But that energy became entropized. And then whatever was the fake thing that they were trying to make with that, I would say repulsive, like bad energy, failed. Then somebody good came along and grew a real garden in the area where this stuff had been. So I bring all of this to you like with intention. I'm trying to collect my thoughts here. When they turned on 5G, at first it felt very corrosive and very out of control. Like this is 2020 or 2021 or so, where you're just like, I'm being fried. I don't know what's going on. And it was like shocking. And I think that there were a lot of reality narratives that were taken from us and then wildly distorted. And then we were asked to energize them, and I refused consent. I think that this is similar, the concept of whatever dark magic, anti-ascension, or agreements or contracts that were made about Christianity, about saviorship, about what would happen upon death and what our planetary ascension would look like. So it's really, really critical for you to take, when I say take back your energy, because that's such a Instagram thing to say, like, take back your energy, girl, like you do you. But you must reclaim your energy. And then with your intention, use it to write the story that you actually want to experience. You're like, no, we don't actually all want to be fried to death by 5G and then die horribly and then live in a Christian fantasy realm for 13 billion years. That does not sound like fun to us. And we have every right to choose how we spend our energy. Just like I'm saying, I don't want to use my energy to create this stupid restaurant with burnt samosas. I actually want to have a nice meeting place and a dog food restaurant. So that's what I'll end on for now. Okay. And I would also like to be like emotionally stabilizing instead of destabilizing. As I bring forward some of these ideals and ideas, what we're doing is cleaning out both the heart chakra and the indigo chakra of your individual bodies, our collective earth presence, and whatever is our community of the Atlantean remnant. It's difficult work of self-consideration and combing through your worldview, your beliefs, and seeing what is essential and positive and what is not essential and will drag humanity over a cliff. And then, like, this is good work and it's worth doing, but it might be challenging and it also might be exhausting. Okay. So that I want to leave you with some energy to be able to keep going. And you're like, Aurora, like every week it's worse. Like it's the Shekinah is wrong and Jesus is wrong and Buddha is wrong. I'm like, I know, I'm getting all of them. I'm gonna get those Hindus too. I'm joking. But seriously, this is the moment of really like assessment of everything. You should look at reality with a fine-tooth comb and run it from every angle and be like, what works and what does not work. You should do a reassessment or a defragmentation of everything that you think is true and of everything that you expect, and really jettison of the things that are not life affirmative and that will not bring you in positive directions. Okay. So I'm going to also, as I get these impressions, keep on reassessing my own curriculum in light of these new impressions. And also, please know, like, I am much more of a dancer than a writer. Like, if we were in a school and they asked me to write a paper, I'd be like, can I do an interpretive dance instead? So I'm relatively uncomfortable at having to express myself like through writing, but I've been doing it in order to bring forward these new class notes and class assessments. So please know, like, I'm doing my utmost in order to express my truth through words, which is very difficult for me. So continued apologies on like my notes are not grammatical. There's a lot of misspellings and a lot of things that aren't perfect in there, but I hope that you can get past those imperfections in order to get the truth of what I'm trying to say to you. And so much of what I'm doing is on the fly. So please know that in maybe in finer or better times, I would be able to write a proper whatever, something for you, write a proper manifesto for you. And I'm certainly trying to do that right now. And it's very challenging. So thank you continually for, don't be too harsh on my writing. So you can tell I feel very insecure about writing and words in general. I'm trying as hard as not trying as hard as I can. I'm efforting and sending forth clarity through words are really hard. Really hard. And it also makes my brain very tired when I like sit down to write these things for you. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired now. So please know it's very exhausting to me. And I hope that it is worthwhile in my efforts to communicate truth to you. I hope that it's getting through to you, and I hope that it helps you on your journey, and that you're like, oh no, like another thing from Aurora. But like, yeah, like this is very difficult and very you have to endure a lot. And I recognize that. I send that out to you. Okay, good. So with that comprehension, or with that expression, throw your books and pencils in the air. And now you're like, this has been very, very long. I need to like go eat food. Definitely. You need to eat food and hug your dogs and cats and take care of your body and really think about and process all the things that I have brought to you. And I thank you so much to the people in this class for your maturity, for your own efforts, for you having your shit together, and for your goodness, and for your propelling yourself forward properly through time. Oh, thank you so much. It's a beautiful comment. She says, thank you and love to Cheeky. Thank you so much. And I'll end on that. Really appreciate all of the love, good consideration, care, and positive healing energy for her. She is very frail, and I'm happy that she's here every day. And like, I'm going to go hug her and take care of her right now. So celebrate her every day. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Thank you. And I am also like very, very great. Pedro says, love the lasagna. Thank you so much. I'm also very, very grateful for you participants in this class, good people that I have in my life, good people that I'm connected to in the chat, and some of the good psychic warriors that I interact with. I'm very, very pleased and grateful. And I have a lot of encouragement and recognition to send to you guys, because I think that you're doing pretty amazingly to very adverse conditions. Okay. So also tell yourself that, understand and know this is like this is the most difficult and screwed up ascension process that you could possibly be going through. You're doing pretty amazing at getting through it. Okay. So that is the truth. Thank you very much, everyone.